Alabama and Tennessee's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios, man. We got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And oh, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to what we like to refer to around here as Thankful Thursday. And man, do we have a sound effect for that.
You got to be more thankful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
We thank you so much for this bountiful harvest of Domino's, KFC, and the always delicious Taco Bell.
Have you said thank you once?
Thank you. That's just good. I think that may be my favorite. I know the Campbell's got a real special place. It was our very first daily sound effect. But I got to be honest with you, that one is like right up there, man.
It's great, and that's been my main contribution sound effect wise. The days of the week, yeah.
You got that one in the Screaming Goat.
Oh yes, the Screaming Goat. I'll never forget. Yeah.
JP on the board. You doing all right?
I am. How about you?
Good. Thankful Thursday. Thankful for you.
Thankful for you. How's the first day in your new life?
Oh my gosh, the phone has been blowing up, brother. But you know what? It's been blowing up in a good way. I love it, and I'm thankful very much.
I bet we set a record on text yesterday. There's no way of checking, but I was
smoking.
Like I would say over 200 at least.
Do we get charged per text on that?
No.
Oh God. Okay, good. All right. Hey, we got a great show laid on for you. Coming up halfway through hour number 2, Caroline Dobson calling in. Caroline Dobson is the former congressional candidate, but she is now running for Secretary of State. So yeah, Caroline Dobson will be calling in, the Secretary of State candidate for the state of Alabama. She and I believe Andrew Sorrell, two great folks. The odd thing I've got going on right now is I feel like I know everybody who's running for statewide office, and they're all friends. It's like, okay, what do I do with this? But nonetheless, Caroline Dobson, really sharp lady, running for Secretary of State in Alabama, will be on halfway through hour number 2. And then I've got a triple dipper filled with stuff. Hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper. 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First out the gate, I didn't get to it yesterday, and I put more stuff into it today. Military-minded. Yep, we're going to talk about it. Listen, all you green suiters out there at Redstone Arsenal and Anniston Army Depot and Maxwell Air Force Base and folks in the National Guard and all you defense industry folks, I got information you may want. Things that are happening, things that might affect you, and things that are coming. So we'll talk about it. Military-minded. Number 1, triple dipper. Number 2, listen, I sort of dabbled at home fries yesterday, but y'all, I got to tell you, there's a lot of things going on. Not the least of which is there's a football player who got involved in state politics, like today, like it's happening. So we'll talk about what it means to have somebody else jump into the race for lieutenant governor who's never been in politics at all, but he was a really cool football player. So what does that mean? We'll talk about that. Home fries, number 2 on the triple dipper. And then number 3, I saw a story about this campaign, a story about that campaign, a story about this one over here. And I thought, my gosh, I've often referred to as jackassery, as that really wild, kind of unconscionable action that takes place in the midst of someone's official duties. That's been the right side version of jackassery. And then I realized I'm looking at campaign jackassery. So we're going to run a whole dipper here, and we're going to call it campaign jackassery. That's number 3 on the triple dipper. All right, you guys, let me jump on into the Right Side Way opening monologue. I'll remind you guys, as always, Attorney Stan McDonald is indeed the sponsor daily of the Right Side Way. He's a 30-year veteran in the practice of law, a good dude all around, and a longtime conservative. And I'll tell you more about Stan McDonald here in a few minutes. All right, let me just start off by saying, I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but Democrats are like really sore losers. Has anybody else noticed that? Democrats are like the ultimate in sore losers. They lost in 2016 when their anointed candidate, Hillary Clinton, wouldn't even come out to see her supporters the night of the election. Do you remember that? Can you imagine? There were people in a crowded room who had given nearly 2 years of their lives campaigning and working and striving to make Hillary the Democrat president and break all the glass ceilings in the world. And then the results came in, and Trump won, and they were crushed, and they were depressed. And then there were actually some actual tears in the room, if you remember the videos. And Hillary, though, she did not even come out to thank her people or say a word. She sent one of her minions out to tell them all to go home. It wasn't just her, though. Remember this? Kamala did the same thing. Do you remember that? Kamala Harris, the night of the election, Vice President of the United States, with results being so amazingly strong against her, she hid in a back room and she didn't come out to say anything to her people. She just pouted in the back room somewhere. Sore loser. And by the way, let's go back to Hillary again. Let's not forget that after Hillary suffered defeat at the hands of Donald Trump, the Trump machine that she helped orchestrate 4 years of attacks and rogue impeachment and lawfare and election integrity issues all the way up through 2020. In classic sore loser fashion, Democrats were not just willing to concede and then work to fight another day. No, they literally chose to try and burn down the House on the way out. Well, we're watching the same thing happen right now with the government shutdown. Democrats are still upset that Trump trounced them in the 2024 election. And in a massive tantrum, they are squalling their way into history as the group who refused to vote for the same funding bill they voted for 6 months ago and instead just simply shut it all down. Just burn down the House, y'all. The longest and potentially costliest sore loser temper tantrum in U.S. history. They can't get what they want, so they burn down the House. Look, I don't know if any of y'all are boxing fans. I am. I'm a fan, not avidly, but I love to watch boxing. But there was one fight that I actually did do the whole pay-per-view thing for, right? I had some guys over to the house, and we set it all up in the den back when pay-per-view was a lot bigger deal and harder to do. You had to actually go check out the box at Comcast and bring it to your house and set it up. Anyway, for those of you that don't remember those days, yeah, it was kind of interesting to do pay-per-view. And of course, this was in the days of clunky computer screens and cell phones that did not fit in your pocket and newspapers that actually still showed up on your doorstep in the morning. But I digress. The fight that I'm talking about was Tyson Holyfield. Remember that? Tyson Holyfield fight. Actually, it was their second fight, June of 97. The two men had already met for their first bout just 7 months prior to that, and the world watched an epic upset as Evander Holyfield, against 25-1 odds, completely outboxed Mike Tyson. Left him out on his feet in the 10th round. A technical knockout, TKO, no denying it. Holyfield became the only man besides Muhammad Ali to win the world heavyweight title 3 times that night. But the one that I watched on pay-per-view was 7 months later. It was notorious too, but for other reasons. So yeah, I paid good money for what became a nothingness of a 2.5 round debacle. In the second round, after taking an initial beating and complaining of a headbutt, Tyson and Holyfield were in a clinch, and Tyson inexplicably bit off a chunk of Holyfield's ear, and he spit it out on the canvas. For reasons unknown, the fight was allowed to go on, and dang if Tyson didn't bite Holyfield's other ear in the next round. Now, at that point, the fight was stopped. Holyfield was declared the winner, but before and after that fight, the before and after were very telling. You see, I can remember watching the before when they're in the locker rooms, and each locker room was entirely different. They had their different approaches to gearing up. In Tyson's locker room, there was angry rap music blaring. There's a bunch of guys playing the part of gangsters and hangers-on. They're standing around telling him he was the greatest. They were yelling profanity, telling him what he was going to do because it was his right to do it. It was prideful. It was arrogant. It was angry. It was like there was a massive chip on everybody's shoulder. Holyfield's locker room, completely different. There was praise music playing. One guy kept shouting scripture at him. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. With lots of amens, lots of encouragement. You talk about opposites. And then there was the fight, like sort of fight, with ear bites and everything. Holyfield went to his corner, but on the way he got pushed from behind by Tyson. Security had to come into the ring and guard Holyfield from an enraged Tyson and then force Tyson back into his corner. After the fight, Tyson lost his boxing license. He went down in history as the biggest sore loser in the history of the whole sport. Well, many years later, Tyson has actually worked to try and rehabilitate his personal image, but he's always struggled since that day. Not because he lost, but because of what he did after he lost. You see, those ear bites, they didn't occur because things were going his way. He was lashing out because of the perceived headbutt and the general whooping that he was getting. But he lost because of his inability to stay on task and fight the way he was trained. And when the fight was called for Holyfield, he just lost it. He cast blame. He took no ownership for his part in the loss. Basically, the ear bite was a giant tantrum. It was apparent from his pre-fight locker room that Tyson and Holyfield, they had different underpinnings, if you will. The two of the men had different motivations. They had different worldviews overall. And what happened when the fight didn't go his way with Tyson was likely built upon what was already there before the fight even started. And that's my point. You see, sometimes how you exit, how you leave the arena is just as important as how you would have been if you stayed. What you do with a loss can really mean way more than what you do with a victory. I'll never forget when I was at Ranger School so many years ago, an experience that honestly made me want to quit several times a day. I was in the back of a 2.5 truck coming in from the final patrol of the desert phase in Utah. That meant that I was done, right? The patrol was over. I had passed. All I had to do was go back to the graduation ceremony, except we were told in no uncertain terms that until we graduated, we were not graduated. You know what I'm saying? And that honor violations could still keep us from becoming Rangers. Well, somebody in the truck said something about that, kind of as a word of caution, and it caused a comment about another one of the guys who was in the truck who just smiled and didn't say much. But when I asked what was up, I was kind of shocked at the answer. This guy sitting in the truck next to me in my Ranger class, he had just completed all of Ranger School for the second time. It turns out he had finished once before, but right before graduation, he got caught stealing a candy bar that he wasn't allowed to have. And that was an honor violation. And he got him boloed out of the course despite having met all the training requirements. But you know what he did, though? The guy went back to his unit and he worked his way back up the order of merit list, and he won the right to come back and do the whole thing over again a year later. One of the hardest physical and mental military schools in the entire world, and the dude did it for a second time. And just to go ahead and make it a little sweeter, he wasn't even a line dude. He was a cook in the 75th Ranger Regiment, a combat spoon. And he was not going to let his legacy in the Ranger Regiment be a failure. So he proved himself in the aftermath of his failure. And he came back and secured his legacy forever. I say all this to say, watching Democrats right now, which one would you rather have? Somebody who loses and fights their way back to prevail again another day? Or somebody who bites the ear off? Somebody who doesn't even bother thanking their people? Somebody who just throws a fit? You see, here's the thing. Losing sucks, but losing happens. What you do with it is what defines you. And to be honest, this state and this nation could use some of those voices in the days to come. You see, Democrats have got to return to the fight. They do. They're going to have to return to the fight with some sense of normalcy. And I'll be honest with you, I don't want Democrats to ever win. Not once. I don't care if they ever win another election. But what is causing more harm right now is the aftermath of the way they're handling their loss. Because it appears to me they have lost all decorum, all professionalism. Democrats right now, in the wake of their loss of 2024, are literally burning down the House just because they can't get their way. And yet, the reality is, Republicans are not going to step aside and give them what they want. Democrats have got to earn it. I mean, earn it. Like the guy at Ranger School who chose to come back and do the whole thing over again. And that's the rub. You see, Democrats, they don't want to have to earn it. The Democrat Party has spent years cultivating two mindsets in their people. One of those key ingredients in any temper tantrum on the heels of any loss is a victim mentality combined with a sense of entitlement. And the Democrats have spent too many years cultivating those things. They have told their base over and over again that they're victims, that systemic racism and misogyny and oppression is somehow stacked against them. The world is filled with victims kept in check by the man who has privilege and oppresses them at every turn. And what do victims need? They need rescuing. And when victims don't get what they want, they believe that they're being picked on. You need this. I need this. You can't have that. I want that. And that's what they do. Democrats have created an era of entitlement where people get something for nothing just because they're victims. So free this, free that. Government provides, Democrats write checks. But when those who have been told that life is hard because they're victims, but that victims might not get their next unearned thing, guess what? That's when the fits begin. That's when they bite off the ear. That's when the tantrums kick in. That's when people do things that they shouldn't do. That's when they burn down the House and shut down the government. So to all of you who have ever leaned towards the Democrat Party, just hear me out. What you do right now matters. Because in this life, you will have trouble. We're told that in Scripture. It's what you do in the wake of the trouble that defines who you are. And right now, the Democrat Party is defined by a bunch of sore losers throwing tantrums and shutting down the government and keeping good people from getting paid. And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. There you have it. I mean, think about that. Two examples I gave you. You got Mike Tyson biting off the ear and trying to just basically destroy anybody in his way and blame the others. Then you got the dude at Ranger School who did the entire thing, was about to graduate, screwed up, came back a year later, did it all again. Which one would you rather have? Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
an interpreter that we ate it, and it was horrible. And the interpreter told us that it wasn't sherbet; it was actually orange juice concentrate that we
Oh
ate.
my gosh, I bet that was strong. That'd take the enamel right off your teeth.
Yeah.
Well, but I think you made a point though. Having come from where you come from, you don't waste anything.
No.
You don't. And I would bet that was more than just food. It was probably everything. Everything had purpose, and everything could be repurposed if necessary. Well, so you just mentioned a minute ago, though, you were working through an interpreter. How was the language barrier? You come to America, it's the land of promise. It's the fairy tale you're talking about. There's a stocked refrigerator and soft beds, but you don't speak the language. So how was that barrier overcome?
Well, there was an interpreter, and her name is Ann, and she show up once in a while to help, interpret. But most of the time, we don't have her. So we just point. A lot of time, we just point at each other or point at things, and there was a lot of smiles. There was a lot of nodding.
Nodding heads.
Yeah. And we just follow them wherever they want us to do. We're just so grateful to their kindness and the community.
Well, and I heard too, you learned to speak Southern American.
I did. Two syllables to one to everything. Right?
Two syllables to everything. And one of the things I saw you say a lot of times, you'll say y'all, and then laugh about it.
Yes.
Because you grew up in South Vietnam, so it fits.
Exactly. Love the South.
Well, so all right, you're a kid with a language barrier from another country, learning that there's places in the world that you can actually turn on the water and turn on the electricity and and that everything typically works. But you still have to find your way. I mean, at some point, the other people sponsoring you are going to have to say, we need to help you find a job, or we need to help you get in school. So how did life begin to normalize, and when did your family begin to be able to do things without the assistance of others?
Yeah, it was probably they were with us for at least a couple of years.
Wow,
believe it or not.
That's amazing.
Isn't it?
That's the goodness of people right there.
Oh my goodness!
Praise God.
The love that they shown is just unbelievable. Some of them with us, checking in on us, even after a year or two, they were still checking in on us. And and they found jobs for my uncle at Conagra at the chicken plant there in Athens. He started working there and earned some money. And us kids were enrolled in school.
Okay.
And the school was, oh my goodness, they were so loving. I remember my third grade teacher, because I didn't know the language, she had picked a child out the class to follow me everywhere I went to make sure I didn't get lost.
Wow. But you said third grade, but you were probably 13 or 14 years old by now, right?
I was 13, yeah, because I spent 14 months in the refugee camp. At this point, I was near 15.
Because that's usually middle school, almost high school age, but you're in third grade.
Yes.
So I guess they had to do an assessment to find out where you were academically and place you?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So you were older than all the kids?
Yes. Yeah.
Did it matter?
No, I'm not. I wasn't any bigger than them, actually. I was smaller. I was malnourished from the camp, and I was smaller than some of them, actually.
Wow.
And they would, at that time, I don't think they have the ESL
English second language?
Yeah, program yet.
Yeah.
But one of the language teacher pulled me out of class every day for an hour or so and worked with me.
Okay.
On the language. Yeah.
I've seen more than once that in families that come from foreign countries that the children learn the language quicker than the adults.
Absolutely.
Did you become the interpreter for the family?
Pretty much.
Yeah?
Yeah. My sister and I were, yeah, pretty much. My aunt and uncle, eventually, they learned English, and they both went to Calhoun and earned an associate degree.
Oh, yeah. For those who don't know, it's Calhoun Community College. So
Yes.
that's outstanding. So they were pursuing not just living, they were pursuing like improving their lot in life and doing the. which is also amazing because I think we have so many Americans that grew up in the first world, they forget the opportunities they have around them.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That's
you-
what immigrants like me see, that America is full of opportunities.
Mm.
And that's why all immigrants want to come here, because they see those opportunities that we
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. Hey, got to tell you about Stan McDonald. Yeah, Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. He's a 30-year veteran in the practice of law up here in North Alabama. Listen, Stan McDonald is not only like a great advocate for you legally, but he is somebody who has been in the trenches, in the mix, in the fray for years on all the things that right side ruffians care about, all the conservative policies and politics. But aside from that, as an attorney, I can just tell you, Stan McDonald has represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. He can stand up for you in any local, state, or federal court. Absolutely. He, oh, by the way, is the guy who I like to say, if Stan McDonald is your friend, you're going to, is your ally. What am I trying to say? Is your advocate, you're going to have no greater friend. And likewise, your adversary is going to have no greater foe. So that being said, Stan McDonald, I'm going to tell you how to reach him. You ready? His phone number, Stan McDonald, law firms Wilmer and Lee, 256-533-0202. That's Stan McDonald, 256-533-0202. And tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. And oh yeah, no representation made. The quality of legal services at all impacted by the fact that I got my words tied up a minute ago because Stan's a really good lawyer. Whoop, whoop. Oh, live radio, dude. You can tell it's live radio.
Hey, it doesn't change the fact Stan McDonald's a great lawyer.
He's a great lawyer.
He is.
Have you heard that?
I have.
I've heard that.
I've heard it through the grapevine.
I have. It's on a bathroom wall somewhere. I read it. Okay, listen, we got plenty of stuff to talk about, but I got some text messages too. And you had something over there. What did Racing from Hawaii? Is he listening right now?
Racing from Hawaii.
I love Racing.
With the $10 super chat on YouTube,
Wow.
saying, cheers and congratulations for being selected by God and President Trump for U.S. Attorney. We love you, Brother Phil. Aloha.
Man, thank you so much. Racing from Hawaii. You know, that's one of the things I get the biggest kick out of is this audience. I mean, obviously, a lot of our base is right here in the listening area, but man, it's amazing to me how many people are out there that are listening to this show from all over the world, really.
We got ruffians everywhere.
Ruffians are everywhere, you guys. I'm saying. All right, we're taking a break. We'll come right back. I got plenty of text messages and lots of stuff, and we'll dive right on in. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
Americans sometimes miss
Yeah.
living here.
Well, so how long were you? Did you stay in a grade level below your age?
No,
throughout?
after third grade, they decided to skip the fourth grade. So I skipped fourth grade and I continued to go to school. And I was 22 when I graduated from high school. From
22.
Athens. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did anybody know that you were 22?
No, no, because at that time I probably could buy alcohol.
Well, yeah, probably could. You might have been the best friend.
Yes.
So, you came from a vastly different culture with a vastly different perspective on life, and also maybe a deeper appreciation for what is needed versus what is wanted.
Right.
But then you got into like American junior high and American high school, and did you enjoy high school? Was it fun? Did you do sports or anything? What was it? No.
So we saw the opportunities that was here in America for us, and we knew that we left relatives at home that are struggling.
Yeah.
So I didn't have your typical high school, high schooler that's going to sport and going to doing all these things that high schooler do. And at that time in Athens, every Friday night they would ride around the square in their car, with their music blasting. That was the thing to do.
Yeah.
I didn't get to do any of that stuff because I was working.
Okay, where'd you work?
So my aunt and uncle, they earned an associate degree from Calhoun Community College, and they both got jobs. And from that, they saved their money enough to buy a Chinese restaurant.
Really?
in Huntsville, which is 30 minutes, about 20 to at that time, about 20 minutes drive from Athens.
Okay. Yep.
So they bought the restaurant, and so I worked there, 7 days a week in high school.
All right. So I grew up in Huntsville.
Yeah.
You know that. You know some of my family. We
Yes.
discovered earlier. Where was the restaurant?
It's no longer there.
Okay.
It was a Hong Kong Chinese restaurant on North Parkway before you get to Max Luther.
Yeah. I think
It's
I've eaten
right-
there.
No way. I might have served you.
You might have. That's crazy.
Yeah. So let's see. It was right next to, it was attached to a hotel that has the orange roof.
The orange roof. Yeah.
Oh,
Your husband's over here wanted to say
Yeah,
it. Don't
I
worry about
know,
it. But
I know.
the reality is, so your family
oh,
had a
gosh.
restaurant and you worked in it. How many days a week did you work there?
7 days.
Oh, so you went to school and worked 7 days a week.
Mhm. I would go to school. After school, I would drive up to Huntsville and work there, waiting tables. And in between waiting tables, I'm doing my homework.
So you've definitely got a work ethic.
Yes.
The restaurant was where you spent the majority of your free time, which wasn't really free, but was the whole family involved in the restaurant?
Yes. My aunt and uncle, of course, my aunt would quit her job to run the restaurant. My uncles continued to work just to keep the insurance.
Yeah.
And my sister would stay back home to take care of their boys who were still in school. But I helped with the restaurant during the week. And then on the weekend, everybody, the whole family worked. On Friday night, Saturday and Sunday, the whole family worked in the restaurant.
I think the other thing that too often Americans miss, and not everybody, because there's entrepreneurial spirit here. There's still a great sense of industry in the United States, and there are people that appreciate what we have, but there's also people too often that become complacent and don't realize that sometimes hard work really does pay off. And that's also honoring God. That's a stewardship of what he gave you.
Exactly.
Part of stewarding is even your time.
Right.
The relationships that you had with the sponsors who were with you for 2 years. One of the things that strikes me, there's a passage, and I've got to think where it is right now, but I think it's in 1 Thessalonians, but it says, because you had become so dear to us, we were content not only to share the gospel with you, but even our very lives as well. Meaning, hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down to some major ground across the Southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show, this show right here. I'm talking about it goes from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that lovely little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. Big old patches of North Georgia, Mississippi, all thrown in just for good measure. And oh, by the way, that's just the radio. Then there's all y'all out there in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web, logging in to the live stream, audio and video, places like X, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then all you podcasters, tons of podcasters who catch it after the fact. Listen, I say all that somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but what I'm saying there is we can see all the different ways you guys catch the show, and it means the world to us that you do. So thank you very much. Thank you for engaging with us. Thank you for being a part of our lives. You're the only reason why we do it. So there's that. I got to say, my next dipper here I'm going to jump into in a moment, military-minded, leads off with what is happening with the war on the drug cartels. Make no mistake, we have troops in harm's way right now, people doing stuff. It is a very kinetic level of activity, not static at all. It is kinetic. And we're watching as things are blowing up and interdictions are being made and emphasis is being placed with military force to back it. And as I'm sitting here right now, I will say this: President Trump is holding a law enforcement roundtable at the White House live on one of my screens, which you can guess is not CNN. But he's holding the law enforcement roundtable. He just finished saying a minute ago, that he believes that drug cartels are indeed a core national security issue. That's a big deal. To label it a core national security issue sort of takes things to the next level. I mean, he's already declared drug cartels to be terrorist entities, and so as entities of terror, it engages the process differently. Now, as he's naming them as a core issue of national security, what that means is emphasis has now been placed. It's not just that this is something that the Department of War can also engage in. It's saying this can be engaged, and my emphasis as president, as commander in chief, is on it. I'll tell you what. I was going to read some more text messages, but let me just go ahead and engage the topic since I'm on it right now. I've got the first article here from Fox. I hold it in my callous former paratrooper hands, and I will just tell you, this came out about 6 days ago. It says, Trump's war on the cartels enters a new phase as experts predict what is next. Okay, think about this. Where is this going? What could you see happening? What are the phases? Military operations typically run in phase lines. They typically cross over a milestone. And a phased military operation, it may have certain elements that have to be achieved before you arrive at the next phase. Sometimes a phase line is geographic on a map. Cross phase line blue, cross phase line red. You're reporting back. It's an ID issue. It's where you can tell the higher headquarters where you are by just calling out a phase line. But a phased operation is one that you're doing that has certain levels of achievement that have to be met before you can enter the next phase. What we're watching right now is a potentially phased operation against the cartels. Story I've got here says the armed conflict with the cartels is real. It goes on to say that just the other day, another suspected drug vessel boat off the coast of Venezuela was taken out by U.S. military forces. That one killed 6 suspected drug smugglers. At the time, that was the 5th. I will tell you right now, by the time this article was in my hands for the show, we now have 7. There have been 7 boats taken out by U.S. military. White House sent Congress a memo about 2.5 weeks ago, informing Congress that the White House believes the U.S. is now participating in what it called a non-international armed conflict with drug smugglers. Non-international, what does that mean? These are not geographic entities. These are not nation states. These are non-nation state entities that are operating much like an Al-Qaeda that doesn't have territory of its own. It doesn't have a geography. There's no international borders. But what it does have is a hierarchy, an organization, and an ideology and an action that can all be addressed. So we're watching right now. It says the U.S. has now amassed an impressive collection of naval and air assets stationed around Venezuela, a country whose socialist dictator Nicolas Maduro, the Trump administration, has accused of being in league with the cartels. Experts say, here we go, and the experts are, by the way, quoted by name. It's not unnamed sources. Experts say these strikes could mark the start of a broader military campaign targeting cartel logistics and the command networks. Okay. First thing you do in most military operations is achieve air dominance. In this case, we're achieving dominance in terms of the ability to traffic the drugs. So taking out the boats, one of the things that I read a moment ago that I may get to just in terms of quoting it, is that the cartels have felt safe in using their boat operations because no one's ever truly challenged them in great detail on it. As we begin to blow up boats, they may take to the air. And it says to go ahead and expect then that we might start taking down planes. Brace yourselves for that. But then it goes on to say the very first phase in all of this was shutting down the U.S. border. That was the porous, geography that we had to shut down first. So we have now shut down the border. He said next the U.S. will need to hit the cartel command nodes. And that's it. You want to hit their C2, their command and control elements. You want to take out their ability to communicate. You want to take out their leadership. You want to take out their ability to lead, guide, and direct their minions. So hitting the cartel command nodes. One of the ways they're doing that already, which I'm encouraged to hear this, by the way, is that Mexico is said to be really targeting drug labs in a hard way, more so than it's ever done. And it says the article says they are aggressively going after the cartels. actually repatriating some of the people they capture and sending them back to the U.S. for trial in U.S. courts. Gotta love that. Glad to hear it. Hope it's true. It also says then we might expect next the focus to shift to their logistical or their transport nodes. And how do we do that? Well, there's transatlantic routes out of Africa and Europe that bring the drug, the elements from which the drugs are concocted, and beginning to take those out at their core, at their root, is how you undermine the ability then of the cartels to even manufacture. And then it says the sea strikes are going to continue. If cartels start to shift to the air, they may rely on airplanes, at which point we'll be taking out planes. That's amazing when you stop and think about it. I've heard about the war on drugs all my life. I have. The war on drugs, unwinnable. The war on drugs. We're just going to keep plugging away. But no one ever really wanted to get in there and get busy. Now what you're watching is what is often referred to as a whole of government approach. In fact, let me grab this article. Hang on. Where's that one I've got? Here it is. I pulled this one off of Woke Spy. Woke Spy talks about what all is there right now in terms of the deployment. And Woke Spy also talks about how much is able to be brought to bear in the midst of a declaration of these cartels being considered terror organizations. At that point, it's not just the ability of the Trump administration to act like, in terms of, taking action against the cartels for criminal prosecution. Designating them that way allows Treasury to seize assets. It allows Department of Justice to have arrest authority. It allows the CIA to take certain actions across borders. It allows the military to engage. It's a whole of government approach. But what has the military got? Since this dipper is military minded, how about this? Story off of Woke Spy. The current deployment includes thousands of American troops. Pentagon estimates it has deployed roughly 10,000 military personnel currently operating in the Caribbean area in relation to the war on drugs. U.S. Air Force B-52 Stratofortress bombers and Marine Corps F-35s recently conducted a demonstration near Venezuela's coast. That's a show of force. At least 7 U.S. Navy warships and 1 nuclear submarine are believed to be operating in the Caribbean. That's a show of force. And then there's Puerto Rico. Picture Puerto Rico as being like a land-based aircraft carrier right now. Puerto Rico, 10 F-35 fighters and 3 MQ-9 Reaper drones have been deployed, transforming the island into a key logistics hub. Here's the thing. They actually went to Naval Air Station Rosie Roads. So Rosie Roads has been closed since 2004. The military just reopened it for use. They just re-engaged the airstrip, went in there, cleaned up the toilets, and got to work. So Rosie Roads has now been reactivated for its operations. An AC-130 Ghost Rider gunship. I call them Spectre. Have you ever seen Spectre in operation? Whew. Listen, that thing's a beast. Special Operations Aviation and MH-6 Little Birds and MH-60 Blackhawks have been spotted in Trinidad, Tobago here recently. All said and done, we have a massive military presence that has just engaged what I would call full spectrum warfare in the Caribbean against the drug cartels. Now, right now, most of it has been limited scope in terms of, the actual kinetic activity. But y'all, drug cartels are getting the message. How deep they're going to get it, if they're really going to stop, keep in mind, they make billions of dollars off of us. The cartels aren't going to give that away right soon. So we have to stay on our toes, and we'll see where it goes. But right now, the war on drugs, the military, if you're military minded, the military has a huge role right now in that whole of government approach to the cartels.
Stay on your toes, see what goes. See how it goes. Yeah.
I just write that down, make a bumper sticker out of it.
You're just doing it without even trying.
All right, take it to a break, JP. We'll take a break right now. We'll come right back. I got some other stuff about the military you might want to know. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. It was a deep relationship with these people. Did that continue even after the first 2 years? Did the families you had seen that sponsored you and helped you, were they still around? Were you still seeing them?
Yeah, we still continue to see some of them. Yeah.
You said something in one of your speeches too about something. I'm jumping around a little bit, but you said something about one of the things that really got you was a Salvation Army angel tree.
Yeah. that first Christmas in America. I was 13.
Okay.
And then my sister, who was 10, 11. And then I have three, my aunt and uncle had 3 boys. They're younger. So that very first Christmas, I woke up, don't understand anything about Christmas.
You grew up Buddhist? Is that right? I think I heard you
Yes,
say that. Yeah.
I grew up, well, my family, Buddhist, but we weren't like practicing Buddhist,
Okay.
Religiously or anything like that. I think it was just one of those things that you kind of pass on from your ancestor.
It was cultural religion as much as anything.
Yeah. And so I remember waking up Christmas morning, and there was a Christmas tree that's decorated. And there's these big mesh bag. At that time, it was the angel tree. Came from the Salvation Angel tree, which I didn't know that it came from Salvation Angels tree program.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, but I remember waking up seeing that the tree and these big mesh bag that full of toys and oranges. And I remember at that time, now I'm dated back, the little strawberry shortcake dolls, that smell just like strawberry shortcake. I remember smelling it for the first time. And it makes such an impression. I'm like, who did this? Who would do this for us? It would just make such a big impression on me that a few years later, I found out that it was the Salvation Army Angel Tree, and I wanted to volunteer there and help. And so I got to volunteer with that program for several years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Give back.
To give back.
Yeah.
Because it makes such a huge impression on me.
Well, so let me ask you this. So you came to America with, you called it a fairy tale ideal of what America might be, never having seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've been here for a few years. Was it living up to expectations?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
So no deflation, no loss of the ideal?
No. Part of it because we knew what communism did to our country. And we knew that my parents and some of my 4 siblings and cousins and aunts and uncles in Vietnam, I knew that they were struggling so badly that anything is better than what they are living. And America's given us these opportunities we're just so grateful to whatever America gave us, and we seize it, and work really hard. I've always, when I go and speak to kids now, I've always like, you don't have to be the smartest kid in the classroom. You just got to show up and work. That's all.
I practiced law, and I was told by an old lawyer back when I was a new lawyer. I won't say young because I wasn't young, but I was told by an old lawyer when I was a new lawyer. He said, you don't have to be the smartest lawyer in town. You just have to be the hardest working.
Yep.
He said, most lawyers are lazy. He said, you do the work and do the research and prepare yourself. You'll beat the smartest lawyer in town every time.
Exactly. Wise words.
There are wise words. I actually shared them with another young lawyer later because now I'm the old lawyer. Well, so let me ask you something. You mentioned a moment ago, you knew back home that your family that you had left behind lived still in a struggle in many ways. Did you have communication with them? Did you know how they were doing? Did you write back and forth? What?
Yes.
Okay.
We did. At that time, we wrote back and forth, and it would take months. And everything we wrote to them was open by the communists.
Oh.
And they would read our letters because I knew that because when I received letters from home, my parents and sibling would date the letter, so I knew it would take several months. And all of my letters that I received had been opened. And I remember one time I even slipped $1 or $2 in my letter, and my dad wrote back and told us not to do that anymore because they won't get it.
Wow.
It was open and read.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Man, making common sense like a superpower. Hey, I'm on this Dipper military minded. In a moment, I'll get some text messages. I see some military text messages coming through. So if you got any thoughts on this, I'd love to hear them. Your thoughts on the use of the military and the war on drugs. Here's an article that came off of Fox, but I'm watching right now as Trump is still speaking at that law enforcement roundtable, and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth just spoke. And if I gathered what I gathered correctly from the subtitles on the page, or the little chyron on the bottom of the page, it appeared he was talking about what's in my hand right now. As to the war on drugs, last thing I think I've got on that is that the Trump administration is considering right now, since they've declared narco traffickers to be narco terrorists, and in engaging them in a military capacity out in open waters, can they also do that on our southern border? Trump has already said, article here from Fox, Dateline yesterday, he says there's very few boats traveling the waters, so now they'll probably come in by land to a lesser extent, he says, but they'll be hit on land also. And then he was questioned on that further. He said, we do believe we have the legal authority to do that. If we do it by land, we may have to go back to Congress and explain what we're doing, but we don't know that we have to do that. He said, it's a national security problem. They killed 300,000 Americans last year. That gives you legal authority. What he's basically saying is the U.S. military may wind up taking a role, not just for the purposes of border interdiction and enforcement and augmenting CBP. They may actually take the fight to the border and start basically thwacking people as they're trying to traffic drugs across the land border. I mean, this is a whole new day, y'all, and that's definitely a different level, because that's not unfounded, by the way. Posse comitatus is the law that prevents the use of military force or federal military forces on U.S. soil, but it's not entirely prohibitive. There are issues in which matters of national security or the rescue of life, limb, and property that the U.S. military can be engaged, not National Guard, I'm talking about federal forces, on U.S. soil. But here's the thing. There's also been precedent for this. If you think back to just prior to World War I, read your history. Back to just prior to World War I, Pancho Villa, Mexican bandit, cross-border incursions. He came over and actually burned a whole town, I believe, in Arizona. And this was a thing. We actually sent an amazing amount of military forces down there, which actually crossed into Mexico and spent a year chasing Pancho Villa around and fighting with Mexican bandits. So it won't be the first time, but we'll see what happens. A couple more things on military minded, and I may not get it all for the top of the break, but I found this interesting. Let's shift gears a little bit. What's going on with the government shutdown? Well, like I said, temper tantrum still going on. But you know what's also really irritating? Those things that drops through the cracks. It's not like, oh, everybody didn't get paid. That's a thing. That's a big deal. Yes. But then there's those people that are in, the middle of their terminal leave. Their tour of service is actually coming to a close, and they're just about to exit. And now you can't process final pay. What do you do? Well, the Army just issued something. Task and Purpose has this article came out yesterday. Some of this is going to interest some of y'all. It says the Army is now extending the tour of service for soldiers with upcoming separation dates by 45 days in order to get past what it believes is going to be the federal government shutdown. So basically, you got people. I mean, the second and third order effects of what the Democrats are doing are huge. It's not just a, well, we shut down government. So for about, 4 weeks, we weren't able to see people who work for the IRS get their paychecks. Like that's not enough. But anyway, then there's things like this. You've got people who were PCSing out of the military, moving their families. Now they can't leave. Now that new job they're about to start, or that new school semester they were going to take on, all may be delayed. And then you got the institution of VA benefits, GI Bill benefits, and you're like, everything's getting jimmied up by this. You've got thousands right now of military service members who did an honorable service, finished out their contract, and were due to depart service and clear post and PCS out, and now they can't. And so they're delayed. But then what does that do on post? Oh, let's see. Wait a minute. You haven't cleared housing yet, but we had somebody coming in that needed your housing. But now we can't get to your housing. You're still in it. When are you going to leave? We have no idea. It's extended 45 days with a likely extension if it keeps going. Can you see the second, third order, fifth order effects of this? So all I'm saying is the military's already recognized the problem. They're having to extend tours of duty for an additional 45 days. But the implications of that are also huge because what does that do? It keeps people on the payroll. It slows down their benefits. It prevents them from PCSing. It cancels movement contracts. It jimmies up base housing. It's a freaking mess. Kids enrolling in schools, the whole thing. So all said and done, Democrats need to make them own this. Own it, y'all. Own it. What have I got here that I can finish up before we get into the last piece? There's a question of whether or not the National Guard can be deployed in some of these crises that are occurring around and about. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals just ruled that Trump is allowed to deploy the National Guard to Portland. However, then you got the Solicitor General in Illinois basically trying to put the kibosh on deployment of National Guard to Chicago. You know what's going to wind up having to happen here? I got two articles, one from Red State, one from Fox. And I'm just telling you, the sooner or later, the Supreme Court of the United States is going to have to weigh in again and say, look, all of you, like Ninth Circuit's doing it one way, Third Circuit might be doing it another way. What it basically means is when you have conflicting opinions, there are times when the court has to get involved in order to bring resolve and congruity to the laws. And the deployment of National Guard is apparently a big deal. All right, you guys, we're going to take a break right now. We'll come right back. I'll start getting some text messages. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on the military stuff. What do you think about the use of the military deployed against drug cartels and whether or not that could even be on land at the southern border? Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Folks, Phil Williams here. I want to remind you that Inspire Advisors is one of our sponsors, and they are doing amazing work. Look, I know this audience. You're the kind of folks who believe in standing up for your principles. You're good stewards of your resources. But what if the companies you were investing in don't reflect your values at all? Well, that's why you need to meet Paul Breyer and his team at Inspire Advisors. Because Inspire Advisors, they are experts in the field of biblically responsible investing. They can help you grow your bottom line while also be proud of what companies you're investing in. Inspire Advisors, check them out. Their website, www.moneypatternwealth.com, and tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio.
Still.
But at least they knew you were safe.
Yes.
How long did it take before they knew you were safe?
6 or 8 months.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you were able to get a message to them while you were in the refugee camp?
When the organization came and helped us, we wrote a letter to my cousin in Australia, and they delivered to my cousin in Australia. And my cousin in Australia wrote to my parents, said that your family is in a refugee camp in Indonesia.
That had to
That's
be
how they, because my mom, I found out later in 93 when I went back that my mom, the market in Vietnam is, people go to the market in Vietnam a lot, every day, right?
Like the street markets.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's also a social place, a place where people catch up with their neighbors, and find out,
All the
gossip going on. And every day she would go to the market and she would hear so-and-so left, but they didn't survive the sea.
Oh, wow.
So-and-so was robbed by pirates and they killed everyone. It got to the point where my parents hadn't heard from us for months. My mom was so distraught. She thought that she might have sent her kids to die, because she hadn't heard from us for months, and she didn't think that we had survived. She said, "I can't hear this anymore," so she stopped going to the market, and she shut herself upstairs in one of the rooms until she could hear if we had survived or not.
Wow.
And my sister said one time she went to spend some time with my grandmother for the summer and came back, and my mom was sitting there, and she didn't even recognize my mom because my mom had lost so much weight, and she was just grieving, thinking that we didn't survive.
Wow. But you did.
Mm-hmm.
You came to the United States. Life is better. And were you able to communicate with them directly at that point? Were those letters, you weren't having to go through Australia anymore. You were sending letters directly.
Right.
Wow. So you're 22 years old leaving high school, but you met a guy named John at some point, who's sitting over here to my left. And you and John now have been married for a lot of years.
It'll be 35 years this June.
Yeah. My wife, Charlene, and I are at 38.
Wow.
But you and John met, and I saw you give a speech to a church, and you said that John had already decided he was going to marry an Asian woman because God had told him that.
Yes.
And then he met you.
Yes.
And I guess that was it.
Yeah.
But you also had some friends who prayed you two together.
Mm-hmm.
Tell that story.
Okay, so let's see how. Okay, so John went on a mission trip, Central America, and he was engaged to a lovely young lady in North Alabama. Well, during his mission trip, he realized she wasn't the one for him. So when he got back, he broke up their engagement. So a few months after that, he was going down an escalator at the Parisian. If you live in North Alabama, you know there was a mall there
I did.
with a store called Parisians.
Yeah.
Well, he was buying a gift for a baby shower, and he came down this escalator, and he saw this older Asian lady at the end of the escalator where there was some makeup counters.
Yeah.
And he had a flashback that when he was a kid, he saw himself marry an Asian person, a woman. And so he said, he did out loud, he said, God, that's what I need.
Apparently he was right.
And so the next day when he went to the baby shower, he saw a friend, and his friend said, we have this girl we want you to meet. She's a friend of my girlfriend, who at that time was my best friend in high school. And John's like, I don't really want to date a high school girl.
Because he was older, right?
Right. He graduated from UAH, has his engineering degree and all
Okay.
that stuff. He was 25. And he said, no, I don't really want to date a high school girl. And his friend said, oh, no, she's actually 22 years old.
But she's still in high school.
Yeah, she's still in high school. And he said, no, I don't really want to date a stupid high school girl. And they're like, no, she's actually 22. And they had to explain why I was 22 in high school. I didn't know English and all that. And they had this a grainy high school newspaper of me winning some sort of award. And they showed it to him, and he said, oh, okay, I'll meet him and her. And so he came on our awards night, and that's how I met him. And I knew he was the one right away. I wasn't even allowed to date at that time.
Oh, you weren't allowed to date.
I've never
Okay,
dated.
so how did this go over?
Yeah. So I
Gotta
knew
tell
he
your
was,
uncle and aunt what's going on now, right?
It took me several months. I had to work up the courage.
Did he have to come to the restaurant?
Oh my gosh, he ate so much Chinese food. So much. I mean, this is a guy that doesn't even eat black pepper. You know, he was forced to eat a lot of Chinese food. So I went to my aunt and uncle and said, I met this guy, and I think, I really like him. I'd like to know him. And my aunt said, well, you work 7 days a week, so you can't date.
They were cutting you no slack.
No, you work 7 days a week, and if he wants to see you, he had to come to the restaurant. So John would come to the restaurant after work almost every single day. And we would chat. We write a lot of letters to each other, so we would trade letters when he come over, and then I would talk to him while I was running tables here and there, went slow time or whatever. And he ate a lot of Chinese food, learned to eat a lot of Chinese food at that time. And he even one day took off from his engineering job because our dishwasher didn't show up. And he took off one day just to wash dishes.
Well, he's making points at that point. All right. So, at what stage in this relationship did your aunt and uncle go, okay, you can? Alabama and Tennessee syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 on a thankful Thursday. You know what? I want to hear the sound effect again. Thankful Thursday. Play it.
You got to be more thankful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
We thank you so much for this bountiful harvest of Domino's, KFC, and the always delicious Taco Bell.
Have you said thank you once?
Thank you. There it is. Thank you. I like it. A ton of text messages. Let me catch up on some of these. Let's see. We got somebody first-time texter, JP. Do you see it? Wow. Okay, good Lord. First-time texter who did not waste any time getting a long text. Let's see what we got. If I can get some of this in. He says, howdy, first-time text the show. Not to be presumptuous because I don't know the inner workings of D.C., but I do have feasible ideas to turn this government shutdown into the Democrats' worst October possible of all time. And it could be done by President Trump keeping a campaign promise he's made for both terms. If we could open up interstate commerce for health insurance companies, okay, they would have to fight it out for the free market, giving Americans better premiums. And while the Democrats, he says, he, she, whoever, have said, made the shutdown about the Obamacare subsidies, we could take the wind right out of their sails by rendering those subsidies pointless. Okay, I hear what you're saying, and I see that, and I do believe that is something that's been discussed. They are hot on the mantra right now that the Affordable Care Act is not affordable, and it's going to take things like this to get it done. Great text. I appreciate that. I appreciate the detail you put into it. By the way, that was a well thought out text, which I'm looking at this going, this is an expert. This is not a casual listener.
Yeah.
But anyway, I do believe that, yes, an open marketplace that actually has a free and fair market so you can choose and have portability in your coverage can be enhanced. And all that does is create the competition, the free market that drives the prices down, gives folks better premiums, get rid of some of the lock and stock and the outright monopolies that some companies seem to have. Kimball from Harvest says, Phil, if the U.S. military, along with the reserve components, is not used for the defense of our homeland, what else would it be used for? Maybe expeditionary purposes? Of course, we should use these assets wisely for the defense of our homeland and shores. The cartels are above and beyond mere lawbreaking. They're serious threats to our homeland. Why wouldn't we send our forces where they are needed to decisively eliminate the threats? Kimball from Harvest. Because of Title 10 of the U.S. Code. So the use of the U.S. military federally on U.S. soil can be declared as a matter of law. The president has authority, but what he's saying right now is they are considering that as a offensive operation as opposed to a defensive operation, which is where it's been right now. We have been in a defensive and logistical posture working with CBP and others who have border authorities. National Guard oftentimes having the lead because they're in Title 32 of the U.S. Code, which is in a different category, and they can do things without having to be federalized. But federal troops, offensive operations, hunter-killer missions, special operations, maybe even, targeted drone strikes and that kind of thing, that's a different capacity. We might even be talking about cross-border incursion. So all I'm saying is it just has a different feel. It's not like we can't do it.
Well, let me ask this, though.
Yeah.
I don't want to, go down too far for rabbit trail on this, but I'm all for the airstrikes because, like, what was it? Kimball said, well, what else would our military be used for? Defending the homeland of boats that are coming here with drugs and such, and the same with the border. I know, but with the buildup outside of Venezuela, there's a lot of people that are wondering if we're about to see a boots on the ground regime change operation with Maduro and Venezuela. Yeah. What are the odds you think that we're going to see something like that? Because, like I said, I'm all for, like, this is what the military is used for, but regime change operation getting entangled in another thing like that does make me a little concerned and worried. Not like I'm a Maduro fan, but I don't want to get entangled in something like that. But I'm just wondering, what do you think the thought of the possibility is for that to happen?
I don't think it's off the table. I think so. First of all, let's take it two ways. We're wrong not to plan it. When I say that, all I'm saying is you don't want to be developing your plans when it's already too late.
Yeah.
So I would guarantee you that there is a contingency operation already in place that looks a lot like Panama 1989. Now, are we going to execute it? That's an entirely different matter. I think that the Pentagon has to have its contingency ops on the shelf and ready to roll. But I don't have the sense right now that we're looking at regime change. I'm not going to be surprised though to see us continue do strikes, maybe even strikes on Venezuelan soil, like taking out a drug lab or taking out a logistical hub, and then stepping back and going, now what are you going to do?
Mm.
And then at some point, the heat and the international pressure on Maduro may actually cause him to fall from grace on his own by his own people's actions, as opposed to us having to go in there and conduct regime change. I don't think Maduro is long for the office. I think he's going to try and hang on because that's what tyrants do. But I don't think he's there for a long time. But I do not feel like we're going to wind up having to see, okay, two things. I do not think right now, under current conditions, we're going to see the U.S. military go on land and then basically topple the regime.
Yeah.
All right. The kicker would be is if Maduro got so cocky that he did something that then triggered loss of life to U.S. troops,
Mhm.
or in some way endangered a U.S. interest. If that happens, it could be a game changer.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, like the invasion of Grenada, part of the invasion of Grenada was the fear of Cuban and Russian troops, on that soil establishing operations. But the other piece of it was there were American medical students there at a medical school that were pretty much held hostage, and it was a rescue mission as much as anything.
Yeah.
So there are things that happen.
And I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, Trump gave the CIA permission to do, operations
That's
in
right. I've
Venezuela.
forgotten that.
And the CIA is a paramilitary.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even though if it's not like a declared war, U.S. boots on the ground, the CIA may just, out of sight, y'all can do what you got to do. Even, I don't know. I do worry about, a declared war, boots on the ground situation, but hopefully the CIA can do whatever they need to do.
We'll see. Let's don't do a bag of pigs, but yeah, let's see.
Not that for sure.
By the way, our new texter is Noel from Athens. And Noel, I'm going to ask you one more question. I want to make sure, I don't know if I have a female Noel or a male Noel. So if you
Sure.
could tell us male or female, we'll log that so that we're always referring to you correctly. But thanks for being the new texter in the system. We appreciate that very much. Jenkins from Sneed, Alabama sends me a meme. What's it got? It says, it's a meme, and it says, a president, a king, and a woman walk into a bar and the liberals can't tell who's who. Perfect. Kevin from Hartsel says, the oath says defense against enemies, foreign and domestic. I think I was trying to say. It does. You're right. Tom from Decatur says, I believe the main military drug enforcement troops should be taken mostly from the reserve units with detachments of active duty and a training and advisory capacity for drug enforcement actions. Okay. He said, with today's wars and world hotspots and unrest, the active duty service members must be ready for immediate deployment and engagements. I see what you're saying. And I'm not going to be a bit surprised to see that we have some folks that do a rotation, and it'll be like a brigade size element in certain places as a QRF or a ready force. But there's going to be some pieces that have to get drawn in, like drone activity and that kind of stuff you have unmanned aerial, or for that matter, combat drones like Predators and Reapers. And by the way, Noel, male, go ahead and log it down. Oh, you already did. You're fast. All right. We got you, Noel. Thanks, dude. Jeff from Indiana says, my thinking is tell Mexico to clean up its drug cartels and offer them all the assistance they would need, or put such heavy sanctions on them it would bankrupt the country if they do not. I agree. I think that's what they're doing. As far as drugs coming into the other routes, do a naval and air blockade of the edge of U.S. waters and airspace and eliminate by force any vessel or airplane that does not comply. Jeff, for Secretary of War, in my opinion. He's not just a pretty face driving a truck. Man knows stuff. Tom with all the kids in Huntsville says, in the 80s and early 90s, my reserve aviation unit did counter-narcotics missions. At the time, it was kind of a summer extra duty. Good chance to pick up some money. Yeah, so I was a LURS platoon leader, long-range surveillance, and we had guys that, because we were all LURS qualified, we had guys in my unit that wound up doing counter-drug operations. They basically come to drill and then go home and go back out to the bush, and they were hunting down pot fields and doing surveillance ops and all kinds of stuff because they were guardsmen. They could do that. We were all kind of jealous too, by the way. Last one, Allie from Athens. We have two texts.
Yeah, there's one before from your
I see
monologue.
it. Yeah, it says, oh, okay, for the monologue, she says, thank God for honor violations, Colonel. I'm glad the guy got kicked out for stealing the candy bar, and I'm glad that he learned his lesson and made a true comeback. Yes, indeed. He was, by the way, he was an inspiration. Combat Spoon, we like to call him. And then she says, I rarely text 2 times in one day, as you will know, Colonel. However, having lived in the middle of the Waters cartel, yes, I recall that, and having the cartel bash in the side of my house while I was in it, and Steve was on the El Paso side picking up milk for Mexican children, said, I have absolutely no problem with the United States getting involved with treating the cartels like the enemy that they are. I say bring it. Allie has done more in her lifetime than 5 people that I know. But it's true.
I can tell.
She has.
And that's where her wisdom comes from.
Exactly. We got plenty more texts. I can't even get to them all yet. When we come back, too, we also got a breaking news story that JP is going to fill us in about a gambling scandal in the NBA. Good Lord. I mean, like, wow.
Major.
Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. When did that happen?
After we got engaged.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
your relationship is already serious, but they're still not letting you go out on dates.
No, until he committed to me and proposed. It's when they let me one day off so that I can plan my wedding.
Wow, that's great. That's a good story.
Yeah.
And my grandparents met on a blind date and they eloped a week later.
Wow.
And they were married for 50 years.
Wow.
Sometimes it happens.
It happens. My parents was arranged.
Was it really?
Yeah. My mom didn't meet my dad until the night before the wedding.
Little known fact, I was on a date with another girl when I met my wife. I didn't date that other girl anymore after that.
See, you never know.
Never know. Well, so you had, there's a major life change.
Mm-hmm.
You've now gone through high school in America. You've got a job. You've got a new life, a new language. Your family back in Vietnam knows that you're safe, and now you got a new relationship. But the other relationship that started around that time was your relationship with Jesus Christ.
Yes. So we were, while my uncle was working it was 3M at that time. We also were custodians to the Presbyterian Church in Athens. And during the few years that the sponsor come in and out of our lives, they also encouraged us to go to church with them. Mm. And so we went to church several times, and we were also custodians. So I see pamphlets about Jesus. I knew a little bit about him, but I wasn't like ready to embrace, Christianity, because I didn't really understand a whole lot. And then when John come over to our restaurant every day, he would bring his Bible to read, and we would have discussion. And unbeknown to me, his whole church was praying for me.
Which means they were also praying for him.
Yes. And so that Sunday that I got off from work, that one day to plan our wedding, I went to church with him that one Sunday in August. And
what year was that?
1989.
Okay.
So August 1989, I went to church with him, and it just, I had a lovely time, but nothing that really stirred my spirit.
Nothing earth-shattering?
Nothing earth-shattering. So that night we went back to church, and the pastor was asking all of us to bow head and pray, and something was stirring in me. And when he said, is anyone here, he was given that invitation. Mm-hmm. And he said it was several minutes, and I was not fighting it, but something was stirring in me. And my hand just flew up, honestly. I don't know what happened. It's like something has tied to my hand and just went right up. And then he said, with every head bowed and every eyes closed, would you like to come up here? And so I start walking toward the aisle, and then I start walking up to the church.
This is the church that's been praying for you?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I start hearing these rustling noises in the back of me as I was walking up to the altar. And I'm like, what's going on? So I turn around, and everyone from the congregation was following me up to the altar
Ah,
because all of them was been praying for me
ah,
to be saved that day.
ah.
And I had at first I thought, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? But now I know all those people have been praying for me for months, that I get that day off and that I will be saved on that Sunday. And God had answered their prayer, and they came with me to the altar, and all of them was at the altar just praising God
Wow.
for answered prayer.
Wow.
So
That is something
I'm
else.
it's so humbling
Yeah.
to have strangers to pray for you.
Well, you've
for your
had
salvation.
you've had the intervention of strangers in your life for years at this point.
Yeah.
Wow. Can I ask you, did you share your new faith with your family? Did you go back and tell them what happened?
No.
Okay. So,
No, I didn't.
would you think? And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just, I mean, like, man, just saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, hey, you guys, listen, coming up here in a few minutes after the next break, Caroline Dobson, a former congressional candidate who is now running for Secretary of State in the state of Alabama, will be on with us to talk about an op-ed she just wrote, talking about the election integrity laws of our state. But there's a story that broke. I didn't even know this was out there. Somebody sent me something this morning. You know, I get people all the time will send me like a news thing or a storyline, and they'll try to make sure that I'm aware of something. And I seem to recall, I think it was this morning, it had to be this morning. Somebody sent me this story, and it says, "Oh man, look at this federal government swooping in and doing a major sting or a bust on gambling," but I didn't know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
This is crazy.
Oh yeah, it is. It is crazy, and apparently this has been in the years of making. So this is not a Trump FBI ordeal. This has been being investigated for many years. But yeah, so there's been a major probe into gambling in the NBA, but this has got implications with Italian mafia crime families, and so apparently Chauncey Billups, who is a former NBA player. He's also the current head coach for the Portland Trailblazers. Him and a current Cleveland Cavaliers assistant coach and former player, Damon Jones, were arrested for apparently being used by these mafia families to lure people into illegal gambling operations, because apparently there was X-ray under the table. There was contact lenses with cameras in them to see, cards. There was also cameras everywhere to cheat and use cards. And so apparently Cash Patel said that we're not talking tens of thousands. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars here that Chauncey Billups and Damon Jones were being used to lure people into an Italian mafia poker ring that was rigged.
Okay, wait. So the head coach for the Portland Trailblazers was actually a mafia tool?
Yes.
And he was actually the one. I guess he's on the payroll of the mafia.
I get he was helping lure in people with a lot of money to throw away, and it was a rigged poker setup from mafia families.
Okay,
yes.
Now somewhere in the mix, there's an NBA player,
yes,
who has now been swept up in all of this, but his is even worse. His may have been throwing a game.
So this is Terry Rozier, who he was arrested under the same umbrella probe, but a separate investigation and a separate indictment. Terry Rozier was arrested for apparently the indictment alleges that there was an instance where Terry Rozier texted some friends of his to say, "Hey, I'm going to be going out with an injury early in the game. Y'all bet $200,000 on the under on all my statistics."
What?
And yes, he did. 9 minutes into this said game, he went out with an injury, and then later, truckloads of money, $200,000 worth, came to Terry Rozier's house, and then he received $200,000 for following up his end of the deal.
What?
and leaving the game.
So he did leave the game.
He did.
It wasn't like a joke or anything like that.
No,
I mean,
he
which
left.
is a really bad joke, by the way.
Yeah, he left the game 9 minutes into it with a quote injury, and then got $200,000 for all the bets that went on his under on all the statistics.
Wait, who's he play for?
The Heat.
He did play for the Heat.
He well, yeah.
I hope he's
Heat.
on unpaid leave right now.
He is. So the NBA has said all these guys are on unpaid leave. So yeah, it's pretty crazy because this is I think there's been 31 total indictments in the whole probe, but this is a big time sweep up, and there's no telling how much of this stuff is going on that we don't know of right now.
I'll tell you what else. If they caught him doing that, if he was brash enough to text his cohorts and say bet on the game, how many times has he done this in the past?
Yeah. There's actually a bunch of people are making jokes because there's some videos of Rozier having some really, really bad turnovers, really, really bad shots. It's like this guy's a seasoned veteran in the NBA, and I'm not claiming that those videos are him throwing anything, but with now we got proof allegedly that he had been conspiring to go out early in games and profiting $200,000 for doing that. Who knows what else Terry Rozier was doing, but yeah,
that's all right. On that poker game scandal portion of it.
Yeah.
Were there other NBA players involved? Was the coach actually abusing his position as a coach to bring players in?
We don't know. It's all it said was high level players were being
high level players,
like not players,
card players.
Yeah, card players,
Gotcha.
high level poker players in terms of guys with a lot of money.
Wow.
Were being lured into these games from Chauncey Billups, from Damon Jones. So knowing that these guys are former NBA players and current NBA coaches,
that's crazy. You
may assume that their Rolodex of people they know that have a lot of money to throw around. You may assume that these guys could be current / former NBA players too, but we don't know that for sure.
Pete Rose is still not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
For what did he do? He didn't throw a game. He put a bet on. He put a bet on the game.
He bet as a coach. He bet on his team to win. This is Terry Rozier deliberately leaving games early and profiting off it, and then coaches luring people into rigged poker games with X-ray under the table to see the cards, contact lenses with apparently cameras to see cards.
Those?
Apparently,
that's James Bond crap.
I know, and cameras and card trays to see cards. So, and like I said, Cash Patel said this is a tens of millions of dollars we're talking about here in this probe. So it's a big ordeal.
Good Lord.
And he named the specific Italian mafia families. I don't know the names here, but yeah.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah. So he said the mafia family names, and I think they said the hot spots were in Vegas and Manhattan, and there are a couple of others. So,
if people put as much time and energy into doing something legal and productive as they do into the illegal, you'd think they would be billionaires.
I know. And but by the way, like this is a whole nother rant, and we're up on a break. But this the online gambling and stuff, I think, contributed to this big time.
Oh, I'd say yes, absolutely. All right, more on all of that coming up next. Caroline Dobson running for Secretary of State. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Was it one of those things that was just a little difficult to talk about, or
very difficult to talk about? Yeah. Eventually, I did share my faith with them, and they knew that. They knew that because I chose to marry in the church. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What I would say though too is that you not only accepted Christ, you apparently embraced that relationship with the Lord, but then at the same time you were doing so, and it was not comfortable. At the same time, it was comfortable, but yet not comfortable.
Right. Yeah.
You were stepping out.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, let me ask you this. You and John got married. You started a family. How many kids do you have?
We have 2.
And they're grown now?
They're grown. We have one that's about to turn 31 and one that's going to be 33.
Okay. Well, they're about the same age my kids. Mm-hmm. You have grandkids yet?
No.
Oh, it's coming.
No.
But what I heard in one of your speeches was an amazing piece where in 1993 you went back to Vietnam.
Mm-hmm. I did.
Was there any risk in that, by the way?
Oh gosh, huge risk.
Really?
Because at that time we were sponsoring my whole family to come to America.
Okay.
And honestly, we had like a foot of paperwork that we had to do to fill out. There's 6 of them.
Was that Vietnamese paperwork or State Department U.S.
Both.
paperwork? Both.
Both.
Okay.
And so we knew that if we take some of those paperwork to Vietnam, it might escalate because when we did the paperwork, a lawyer told us that it would take 5 to 10 years to sponsor them.
Okay.
But we also heard from other Vietnamese community that sponsoring their kids, that if you take those paperwork to Vietnam, it might, help to escalate the
Move
time
it faster?
to move it faster.
So look someone in the eye. And
Yeah.
That might help.
And so we decided, and also I was at this time I was 15 years separated from my family.
Yeah.
And I got married and have a little baby. She was 4 months old and the first grandchild. And I really want I miss my family so much at that time. And I also want them to meet their first grandbaby and meet John.
So you're taking the baby with you and John?
Yes.
Okay.
And it was a huge risk because at that time there was still embargo. The U.S. and America and Vietnam. There's not a relationship between those two countries.
I'm trying to think what year we normalized relations, but it was not 1993. We weren't there yet.
No, so we took a huge risk because there's not an embassy. If something was to happen to us, no one would know. We went through Mexico to go to Vietnam.
Oh, wow. So you couldn't even fly direct.
And if something happened to us and the communists decide to throw us in jail, no one would know except families because we're traveling there illegally, But we were desperate, and I wanted to get my family out. And I knew that there was other Vietnamese people that had already done it, and they got home safe, back to America safe. So we did it. So we went.
What was it like going home? What were the initial impressions of stepping back on Vietnamese soil, and what was it like to see your family?
I remember seeing.
And I assume your mother and father were still living?
They were still living.
Okay.
And so I remember seeing they all showed up at the airport. And
Did you land where'd you land?
Tăng Sơn Nhất,
Okay.
Saigon
Okay.
airport. And seeing them for the first time, it was, oh my goodness, it was amazing. And we went to my hometown and stayed there for a whole month.
A month? This was not a quick trip?
No, we stayed there for a whole month. And we took the paperwork to the government there. And while we were there that whole month, they got an invitation to go and have an interview to come to America. So we got to witness that, that joy that they had. And it was so funny because
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about parts of Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi. That's our radio. Then there's a whole ton of y'all that are live streaming the show every single day on places like X, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And there's even a ton more of y'all that do it by podcast and catch it after the fact. All I do when I say those things is make sure you know that we can see where it is you're catching the show. We know the numbers, and it means the world to us. So thank you very much for being a part of the fabric of our lives. We appreciate you. All right. So listen, we're going to jump right into a phone call. So my next segment that I'm about to do is a series of what I like to call home fries, where I take care of business and news, things that are in and around and amongst us right here in the listening areas. So that being said, one of the things that I strive to do on this show is give you a chance to hear the voices of the people who are running for offices that affect us locally. And it's not just the people that are running in D.C. You got to know who's in your state. Well, one of those candidates who has proven herself, certainly worthy of the cause is Caroline Dobson. She is a attorney by trade. She is a former congressional candidate. She is now running to be the Secretary of State for the great state of Alabama. And she's on the phone right now. Caroline Dobson, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I'm especially doing great knowing that you're going to be one of our U.S. attorneys. Congratulations. That's
Well,
fantastic news.
thank you very much. I appreciate that. I thought that news broke yesterday, but I appreciate that, Caroline. Thank you very much. Hey, listen, Secretary of State, you wrote an op-ed. I pulled my copy of it off of Yellowhammer. I know it was published in several outlets yesterday. But you got some thoughts on not just election integrity, but election integrity enforcement. Give me the scoop on that.
That's right. We do have some good laws in this state. We have paper ballots. We have physical manifestation of every single vote trail. We have voter ID when you go to vote. But just having good laws is not in and of itself enough. Is not enough to deter criminals. How many times have you seen a posted no shoplifting in a store? If you're not enforcing that, you're basically incentivizing people to cheat. And so what we need, what I've called on the legislature to create, is an election integrity division. Florida has a similar concept. An election crimes unit is what they call it. But a group of dedicated experts, folks that have cybersecurity backgrounds, who have election integrity law backgrounds, to really build these cases. As you can imagine, our law enforcement, we've got some of the finest law enforcement there is, but a lot of them are operating on shoestring budgets. They don't have the manpower they need. So when they get a call about alleged election fraud, but they're also dealing with human trafficking and drugs and assault and theft, they don't have the bandwidth, and they may not have the expertise. Election fraud is probably not something they deal with on a day-to-day basis. So having a branch within the Office of Secretary of State that is dedicated to enforcement is truly essential to ensure the integrity of our elections and to also build the trust. President Trump is building trust, creating transparency with our federal government. We Alabamians deserve the same when it comes to our elections and our economy.
Well, I don't dispute any of that, and I agree with you. I think that I've seen some crazy examples. I remember back in 2010 when I first got elected to the state Senate. I think in that same election cycle, there was a local election in, I think it was Uniontown or Union City, Alabama, where 110% of the voter population turned out. 110%. You're like, okay, something's wrong. They're pulling them right out of the graveyard to vote now, I guess. But okay, so I get it. Election Security Division. Go ahead.
No, but I think that's the issue in Alabama. Just because in 2020 all of our electoral votes went to President Trump, that doesn't mean that we can be complacent about these local races. And I think we've seen, with a slew of municipal races and runoffs just this past fall, we all recognize, or we all should recognize, just how important a city council member is, a local school board member, a county commissioner. These offices are just as important to our future as a state as a member of the U.S. House is when it comes to how our local taxpayer dollars are spent, how the quality of our kids' education, how our roads and bridges are being maintained. And so I think, to your point, a lot of the fraud that's been perpetuated in Alabama has been on more local level races, but that's holding back the progress of our state, and it's keeping some areas in poverty and subject to corruption when you've kind of got some of these local political machines that do somehow manage to engineer 110% voter turnout. I was so grateful to have really an army of volunteers who volunteered to ensure that there was election integrity in the 2nd Congressional District race. One of my law firm colleagues sat in a particular county in the probate judge's office at the absentee ballot count, and he flagged 43 absentee ballots that were either fraudulent, incomplete, incurable. But these were ballots that the probate judge was gonna pass through, and 43 votes didn't make the difference in my race, but it absolutely could have. Well, when you're talking about a closed county commission race.
Let me tell you, I actually, as an attorney, was the attorney for a woman who lost a city council race by one vote. But in the course of reviewing things before the vote was certified, we identified 11 provisional ballots that we felt should have been counted. They were all provisional, meaning something was wrong at the polls, but these 11 we believe should have been counted. We went to court and we proved our case on 9 of them. In other words, there were 9 votes that weren't being counted that should have been. The only problem was when we opened them, she still lost by 1 vote. But so I like to say we won the case and lost the race at the same time. But still,
Right.
but the fact that we proved that 9 of them should have been counted, I thought that was significant with a 1 vote margin.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, and again, it's not. I mean, of course, we want election integrity when it comes to statewide races and presidential races, but we cannot ignore races in rural parts of the state, like where I'm from. Again, races, municipal races, and so having this election integrity division will streamline the investigation and follow up on these claims and allow our law enforcement to better prosecute cheaters and actually let people know that we do have these good laws and we are going to enforce them. So they better not cheat.
Let me ask you something. So like right now, there's precedent. I mean, we already have things like the home builders, which is, quasi-governmental. They have their own investigative staff, and they can go and do code enforcement. But are you talking about somebody having actual arrest authority, or are you talking about just having a knowledge base and an investigative authority that then they coordinate with the AG's office after that? How are you anticipating this working out?
Yes, the latter, investigative authority.
Okay.
So being able to kind of determine whether a claim is legitimate, whether there is a legal basis for pursuing action and helping build a case so that, again, we can then work with local law enforcement, work with the attorney general, depending on the jurisdiction of the particular claim and kind of where that falls.
Well, I can see that being a thing, and I don't even know the answer to this. Maybe you do. I don't know, but what do other states do? Do you have any idea whether other states already have investigative divisions in their Secretary of State's office or not?
So Florida does. Florida has an election crimes unit that was put in place in 2022.
Yeah.
So that's relatively new, but that's something that again, in calling on the legislature to create that, I would think we should definitely emulate that. And we've seen Florida also. I remember I was in 8th grade. Bush v. Gore, Kathleen Harris,
Oh, yeah.
She was a hero of mine. Florida Secretary of State. But Florida has definitely been the scrutiny of a lot of election integrity battles, and as opposed to kind of inevitably turning blue, they've implemented election integrity strategies, and now you see Florida, is one of the most consistently red states, despite the fact that they've got a huge population, and so I think it's incredibly important, especially as we see growth in Alabama. We see folks moving to Alabama from other places to Huntsville, to Baldwin County, that we have secure elections. We have elections that we can trust, because it's when we can trust our elections, people are more likely to be engaged, to want to be involved.
That's right.
And to work with our government and understand that our leaders fully appreciate the fact that their authority comes from the people, from the voters in Alabama.
No, I totally agree. And I'll throw one more piece out there too. I think in the wake of the mass illegal immigration wave that we saw over the last few years, we have to have all the measures in place we can to protect the election system, because there's going to be any number of people in the nation who shouldn't be voting. And we have to make sure that states are on their toes and engaging that process, just in terms of the millions of people who don't have the right to vote, some of whom may try.
Absolutely. No, amen. I could not agree more. And that's why I also encourage our legislature to close loopholes when it comes to registration. Great that we have photo ID when you go to vote, but we need to do more to ensure that ineligible voters don't even end up on our rolls in the first place. We need more proof of citizenship, residency, and identity when you register to vote. As my mom always said, when we would bundle up to go check cows in the winter, she said it's easier to stay warm than it is to get warm. It's easier to keep our voter rolls accurate than it is to get them accurate, and one way we can do that is by closing some of the loopholes when it comes to registration.
Well, that's perfect. And I got to tell you one more quick story in the wake of all of our efforts when I was in the legislature to pass photo ID for voting and all that kind of stuff, and hearing all the arguments about how it's going to disenfranchise people, and people saying, "Oh, there's not enough scandal out there to warrant this kind of thing." I pointed out, I said, the smallest community, municipality in my district at the time, Senate district, was a little town called Ridgeville, where the mayor won a vote of 19 to 12 to be mayor. And I thought, and I'm pretty sure even at 19 to 12, they still cared about voter fraud. So,
yes,
So it matters at all levels.
Absolutely. That could not, truer words had not been spoken.
Hey, let me ask you this before we go. You've got a 67 county race, so you've already run a pretty really solid stiff race for Congress, and that was only for part of the state. Now you're running 67 counties. Talk about the campaign real quick. We got about 2 or 3 minutes.
No, I'm grateful to have the opportunity to get to campaign throughout the entire state, and again to get to spend time in communities large and small. Like I mentioned, I'm from a town of less than 200, so sure, I'm hitting the big cities, but also listening to voters throughout our state, because as you mentioned, there have been election integrity issues and concerns throughout our state, and then on the business services side, small businesses are the backbone of our economy. How, as your next Secretary of State, can I make it easier and more affordable to start and grow a small business in this state? So I look forward to the next year of getting to campaign throughout our wonderful state and get to meet more incredible people.
Well, if folks want to find out more about you, where can they find it? You got a website and all that.
Yes, we do. DobsonForAlabama.com is our website, and then we're on all the social media forums, Dobson for AL.
Okay. All right. Well, Caroline Dobson, candidate for Alabama Secretary of State, thank you so much for your time, and we'll keep up. All right.
Thank you, and congratulations again.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it. All right. We're taking a break. We ran a little long, but we'll take that break, come right back. Short segment. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
Interview. Okay. We already left Vietnam. John and I and the baby already left Vietnam. And when they did an interview, they went into this interview, and it was an American person that interviewed them.
Okay.
And I think he spoke Vietnamese, or also have an interpreter there. And he looked at the paperwork, and there was one sister, when we sponsor her, she fall under so all of the minor fall under the parents. We sponsor the parents, and all the minor get to go with the parents.
Okay.
But when we sponsor her, she was still a minor. But when the paperwork went through and all that, she no longer become an adult, no longer a minor. So she actually fall into a different category.
Okay. And
her category of sponsoring a sibling take longer than sponsoring a parent. But the interviewer, I remember Mom said she was so scared of that interview. And the interviewer, his name was Frank. I don't know his last name. We thank God for Frank every single day, because Frank looked at the paperwork and said, "Oh, you got one child here that fall under a different category." Well, I think I'm going to reunite this family. I'm going to put her under the parents. So that one sister, that was going to take 10 years for her to come to the U.S. or longer.
So Frank was not a bureaucrat. Frank was a human being who saw something he could do and help.
Yes, and he said this family needs to be reunited. So he put that one sister under my parents. And we thank God for Frank.
Well, how long did it take to get? I got so many questions.
And so they, when we did the paperwork, the lawyers and the government said it take 5 years,
right,
for the parents and the siblings. It took 1.5 years.
Oh, okay. So you beat the system basically, and maybe going over there was the best thing to do.
Yes. Not only that, a whole church was praying over that paperwork. Same church, pray over that paperwork.
I need to meet this church.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in Decatur, Alabama. Okay. But the people in my parents' hometown that was sponsored by their family that left Vietnam like I did, they came and told my parents, how is it that it's only 1.5 years and you guys are getting ready to come to the U.S.? And they're like, who does your son-in-law know?
He must be a very important person.
Yes, that's what I like.
He knows Jesus.
Yes, exactly.
That's awesome. So I got to step back, though, and I got to ask, your mother grieved so hard for you and your sister when you left. And by the way, do you see your sister is still here, I guess?
Yes, they're all here,
How was your mother? Now, obviously, she knew you were safe well before that because she'd been getting letters. Mm-hmm. But how was your mother when she first got to see you again?
Oh, my mom, she was so emotional. And I mean, I think she really loved to see us, but I think she loved to see that grandbaby more than us, which is, normal, right?
It is.
So, yeah, she couldn't believe that we had survived all of that. So we didn't really tell my parents that a lot of things that happened in the refugee camp and the piracy and all that stuff, because, I told them in person when we saw them in '93. She couldn't believe all the things that we had to go through just to make it to the
Did
U.S.
you just sit for hours and talk?
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. And the struggles that they went through. One of my sister was learning how to embroider, and she couldn't even afford to buy the threads, to learn to embroider and all the things that they went through. And then you remember that communist family that moved in and lived with us
Yeah.
that I told
Yeah.
when we first talked about this?
Are they still there?
Well, they're no longer there. But what happened was that they showed up, the husband and wife, and I think 2 or 3 kids, and they're about my sisters and siblings' age. And so they didn't have a whole lot. So my parents gave them some of my parents' clothes, and my siblings gave them some of their kids some clothes. And then they also shared some food with them too. And because of that kindness, my parents showed kindness to this family. When my sister and I left Vietnam, which is illegally because we didn't sign to go leave.
Yeah.
Well, they could have made trouble for my parents. So my parents told them that my sister and I went and visit our relatives for the summer. Well, summer came and gone.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. I got several text messages. I'll catch up on a few. Rusty from Harvest. Rusty from Harvest says, so how many people are registered with addresses that are vacant lots? I don't know. But I'm going to tell you, there's probably some. I'll tell you what happened. Sometimes it's innocent too. Like one of the things that I, like when I had that lawsuit that I told you about, we had to deal with some things. Like one of them was a person who was actually registered to vote in 2 places. But it was because she had moved. The registrars had not taken her off the old list, and she had moved and registered to vote in the new place. And she was voting where she thought she was supposed to vote. So sometimes things happen. We also had one of the properties we had to prove should have been counted that wasn't, because they had always voted in a certain precinct. They went to vote like normal. They were told you can't vote now. Why? Well, their property was now cut in half by the municipal lines. But then believe it or not, it gets way down in the weeds. Then it goes down to not just was it cut in half, was it cut in half on the part they live in? Well, then we had to run the property lines. The property lines went through their garage. Did that count as living space? Well, it was part of their house. I mean, it got down to, we proved that one should have been counted though.
That's so ridiculous.
And that house had 3 people in it. So that was 3 of the votes. So, I mean, it's just nuts. It gets nuts.
It's stuff you don't even think about like that.
No. And you like to think the lines are drawn so clean.
Yeah.
And everybody's house has got its place. And you might just live across the street from the district, but hey.
Where do you live? Well, my son's bedroom is in this county.
That's exactly right.
Me and my wife, we live in this. Yeah.
Listen, and I know this happens because I used to live in Rainbow City, Alabama. That's where this was. My neighbor, my street was actually the dividing line between Rainbow City and Gadsden. My neighbor across the street, his address was Rainbow City, but his backyard was actually in Gadsden. So
it's funny.
It happens. But yeah, here's a funny story for you too. And I can't say for sure, but since I know some of the people that had sway, when I won, so I won my first election in 2010, right? Come back in 2014, I go to vote. Oh, wait, hang on a second. What was it? No, I voted for myself in the primary. Okay, makes sense. I voted for myself, right? Mm-hmm. There I was. I voted where I'd always voted at my precinct in the primary. I come back for the general election to vote for myself, and I'm not on the voter rolls. I had to vote for provisional for myself in the general election. Tell me why that happened. Because somebody somewhere with a stubby pencil with an eraser on the end of it decided to remove me from the voter roll. I had thoughts, I had allegations, but it wasn't worth making it. My vote still counted.
That's
But
crazy.
dang, man. I mean, really? We had a lot of problems with the registrars. Sometimes registrars, people don't realize how important registrars are. But registrars will actually take in your vote, but they also certify or validate your ability to vote. And they'll show you if you live in the wrong district or whatever. But registrars are oftentimes just kindly old people who get appointed by someone with a sensitive nature who wants to see mama have an opportunity.
Yeah.
And you get these sweet little ladies with tennis shoes on, sitting there trying to work out these newfangled computers. And then it gets a little tough.
Yeah. I mean, you would think that in the world of 2025, we figure out better ways to do it. But also, it's like, it's when things go according to plan, it works really well. It's when things don't go according to plan.
Oh yeah, when everything's fine,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
no crisis. I mean, no one's crying foul.
Yeah.
But when you lose by one vote and you find 9 that should have counted, something says you should stand up.
Yeah.
By the way, I will say this: Trump got he's an election denier. He's trying to challenge the results. Of course he does.
Everybody does.
The law allows that. You know what? That's why the law has challenge built into it. When I went and did that whole lawsuit, I did it in accordance with the Alabama code because the law says, okay, in the event of a municipal election, you challenge it like this. You have to do it by this date. You do it by this means. You have to first ask for the recount. All these things that it's actually in statute. This is how you challenge an election.
And I mean, we could say the same about Hillary Clinton, claiming that Russia won Trump the election. Up until recently, you could say the same about almost every president.
Stacey Abrams.
Yeah, almost every president candidate in recent memory has denied the election to a certain extent. So
Stacey Abrams was calling herself governor after she had lost resoundingly. Good Lord. Dave from Capshaw, totally unrelated, just texted in and said, Phil, after you leave, there won't be anyone who's going to read Yellow Dog Mike and Shag Nasty's text.
Oh, no.
Oh, they will. JP will read them. You'll read them, won't you, JP?
I will. Yeah. Begrudgingly. No, I'm just kidding.
Certainly. There will be, I almost named names. JP will read them.
Not yet.
All right, we're coming right back. Top of the hour, moving into hour number 3. I got some home fries for you. We got to cook up a batch of home fries. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. Folks, Phil Williams here. I want to remind you that Inspire Advisors is one of our sponsors, and they are doing amazing work. Look, I know this audience. You're the kind of folks who believe in standing up for your principles. You're good stewards of your resources. But what if the companies you were investing in don't reflect your values at all? Well, that's why you need to meet Paul Breyer and his team at Inspire Advisors. Because Inspire Advisors, they are experts in the field of biblically responsible investing. They can help you grow your bottom line while also be proud of what companies you're investing in. Inspire Advisors, check them out. Their website, www.moneypatternwealth.com, and tell them you heard about it on Rightside Radio.
School starting, and we didn't come back. And so they could have made trouble to my parents, but they went to my parents and said, we know what happened to your daughters. We're not going to turn you in.
Amazing.
Because of my parents' kindness.
Just heaping kindness on them, and it wound up being the blessing later.
Yeah.
Hey, what'd your mom and dad think of your American husband?
Oh, they love him.
Yeah. He was well received?
He was very well received. Bless his heart. He's the hero of this story, seriously. Because when they moved here, all 6 of them, and my sister that here with me, they all moved in and lived with us.
Holy cow.
So he was the only breadwinner for 11. We went from a family of 4 to a family of 11.
Wow.
Overnight.
How long did they live with you?
They lived with us for almost 2 years. Yeah. Yeah, they loved him. I mean, even today, my mom would call, hey, I'm cooking. What do you think John would like to eat? I'm like, what about me? No.
That's great.
But they loved him. They moved in, and they lived with us for almost 2 years. And when they left, he actually cried because he's like, he got to do all these other things that they're doing for him,
I heard you speak too. You said that your mother got here just in time to see the birth of your son.
Yeah. Yeah, they came 2 weeks before our son JB was born. Because I remember being in the hospital and had my daughter. And I remember it was a joy occasion, of course, but I was grieving that my mom and my family wasn't there to witness it. And I remember thinking, God knows the desire of your heart, and within his will, he will answer that desire, that prayer.
Yeah.
And he knew how much I desire to have my family here so badly with that first child that came, that 2 weeks before the second child arrived, they were here. My mom got to witness her second grandbaby arriving to the world. So
That's good stuff. Yeah. As we sit here right now too, one of the things that's really struck me in sort of preparing for today, aside from all the things we've talked about and your love of country, your new country, your love of family, is you have a real strong heart for Vietnam veterans.
I do. Oh my goodness. So
My dad did 2 tours in Vietnam, 2 very difficult tours.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever met my dad or not, but
I did not.
He would have liked to heard your story.
Oh.
But tell me about your heart for
this
vets.
all started in high school. The same friend that prayed for me has a dad that served in Vietnam.
Okay.
And for a long time, I knew he had a difficult time, still struggling. And the first time I met him, I went to him and thanked him for his service. And I watched him gotten so emotional, and he started crying, and we hugged, and Phil, he thought that I hate him.
Mm.
And that just broke my heart. He really thought that I hated him. And I said, how can I hate you? You were just a young man, leaving your country, leaving your family, leaving the comfort of America to go fight for people you don't know because you believe that everybody deserves to be free. No, I don't hate you. And that moment had stayed with me for so long. And that's just that helped embolden me to walk up to strangers, Vietnam veterans now that you see them, walking.
Wearing their hat.
Wear the hat. So
yeah.
you knew they're Vietnam veterans. And I just walk up to them. And I just looked at them, and I just want to thank them for all that they tried to do for the Vietnamese people. And I watched every single one of them just broke down. And I knew then that all the things I went through life, God has a purpose and a plan for me. And that's my ministry, is to serve the Vietnam veterans, because I knew they didn't come home to a very grateful nation. And that a lot of them, most of them probably never heard of a Vietnamese person thanking them for what they tried to do.
No kidding. A lot of them didn't hear about Americans thanking them for what they did.
I know, and I didn't know about the how they were treated until I hear stories from them.
Yeah.
Most of them was like spit on. Most of them were.
My dad told that story about his own experience.
Yeah, food thrown at them and accused them of being baby murderers. I had one veteran told me that he was injured in Vietnam and he came back and he were received so badly that he tells people that his injury was motorcycle accident. Wow. And he hid all of his time in Vietnam. And the burden that they had carried for so many years, being called a bad guy, my heart breaks for them. And I just felt like they all need to hear how appreciative they are.
Welcome home.
And welcome them home. I think Vietnam veterans are so a group of veterans that are so cohesive, because when they came home, only their brothers can understand what all they went through. And their brothers are the only one that they shared what they've been through with. I have so many wives and daughters of Vietnam veterans that comes up to me and said, my husband have never talked about his time.
Alabama and Tennessee's syndicated news talk leader, Rightside Radio. Phil Williams here live in the Rightside studios. Man, we got the local, the state, the national, covering down on all the issues. And oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Welcome to hour number 3 on a thankful Thursday. We're thankful for all of you. I got to go ahead and reiterate something just for those. I mean, I think most of you heard the news already. I made a big announcement yesterday, but I will tell you again that the lovely Charlene and I have just received the honor of a lifetime. The way I've been describing it is God has called, or actually God has opened a door, and the president called, and Charlene and I are stepping away to receive the nomination from the president of the United States to be the next U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Alabama. Big, huge honor that I did not see coming. And I cannot begin to tell you enough how important this is to us. It now involves not just a presidential nomination, which happened yesterday, but it involves a Senate confirmation. I don't know for a fact that there'll be a Senate hearing. All I know is the Senate will, of course, consider it first in Senate Judiciary, and then all things, God willing, be passed forward out of committee to the Senate floor and voted for confirmation. It's a 4-year confirmation. So that being said, I am seeing my time here behind the microphone in the Rightside studio coming to a close, but I want to reemphasize something, and I want you guys to hear me on this. Rightside Radio is not going away. There's an absolute succession plan in place. It does include JP, by the way, who is staying with it. Rightside Media is the parent company. We do a whole lot more than just radio. We got podcasting. We've got written work. We've got all of our social media and our YouTube channel with different things going on it. We live stream this radio show. People pick it up not just, by radio, but also all over the world via live streaming and podcasting thereafter. So I say all that to say, Rightside Media, the parent company of who we are, owning Rightside Radio, has got a succession plan in place, and we'll be announcing that succession plan in more full detail here in the next few days. There's the other side of the succession plan is actually out of town and deserves the right to be a part of the announcement process, if you will. So that being said, JP is a part of that succession plan, but Charlene and I are going to step through the open door that God has created. President Trump has called, and this is something that we cannot turn away from. So we will be doing that. All right. That being said, what?
Well, by the way, we got a comment here on the YouTube. Says U.S. Attorney Phil Williams will be instrumental in achieving election integrity in Alabama. We are blessed. # Go Hard, Colonel.
Wow. Thank you very much. Who is that?
His name is Pure Blood 35758.
I like it. Pure Blood. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. I got several text messages to catch up on. Dave from Capshaw says, Phil, if you have a Senate confirmation hearing, JP needs to live stream it on this show.
I really hope you do have, get to go back and forth with like Adam Schiff.
No, don't start. Don't start. Brian S. from Huntsville says, congratulations on the nomination. Thank you, Brian. Kevin from Huntsville says, Phil. And that's where it stops, says Phil.
No, there's a text before it.
Oh, he says, after you leave, I'm highly concerned about the quality of the bumper music on the show. No, I think that'll stay. In fact, JP's the one who helped create these bumps because we had to make some changes because YouTube kept locking us out because we were using real classic rock and stuff like that.
Yeah, but don't worry because you're talking to a guy who listens to Boston and Scorpions and Guns N' Roses and Kansas and all the above. So yeah, we'll be good. Yeah, Pink Floyd. We'll be good. Yeah.
All right. So I happen to know that Pink Floyd's your favorite band.
Yeah.
Favorite classic rock band.
Yeah.
Setting aside Pink Floyd, who's next?
Boston's up there.
Yeah.
Kansas is up there.
Yeah.
I've been listening to a lot of Scorpions lately. They may be sneaking up there. So
rock you like a hurricane.
Yeah, it's It's tough to choose, but I'd say that they're all in the. And then Guns N' Roses. I grew up on Guns N' Roses, so
Listen, okay, your dad raised you so well.
yeah, he did. Yeah.
My son and my daughter, we'd drive down the road and a song would come on and go, quick, who sings it? Quick, who sings it?
Yeah.
And they had to know.
Yes.
Or they got tickled if they didn't know.
Yeah.
Robbie from Adiana says, congratulations, brother. It'll be in better shape. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Robbie. Appreciate you, man. Barry Mathen says, it just goes to show these NBA, talking about the gambling scandal, these NBA professionals are being paid enough. I wonder if the WNBA will be next. Didn't you say that Stephen A. stepped all in it today and made all kinds of ludicrous comments about this gambling scandal?
Yes.
If you didn't hear, there was a major scandal that broke in the NBA involving both game fixing and table gaming. And what did Stephen A. say?
Well, he went on a rant this morning on First Take talking about how I tried to tell everybody Trump was coming. Trump is coming with a vengeance.
What's this?
Hey, I guess he's claiming that the NBA has been mainly anti-Trump and that he did this on the day after NBA opening day to make a statement. And the WNBA is next, and he's not going to go after sports leagues like the UFC because him and Dana White are buddy. But everybody else, Trump's coming. You better be careful. It's like, dude, this was an investigation that has been years long and started in 2022 when Biden was president. So this is not Trump's investigation or Trump's FBI. This has been years in the making. So he's just he's trying to score political points with the left.
He's trying to recoup because he's been calling out the left occasionally.
Yeah.
That's just knuckleheadedness right there.
Mm-hmm.
Dana from Athens has texted in. I have not heard this. See if you know anything about that. Dana from Athens says, I saw on social media. Okay, red flag right number one.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw on social media that the NBA gambling scandal involved Cory Booker.
I haven't seen that. Not yet.
It might have involved a bookie.
Yeah, maybe Cory Bookie. Yeah.
Cory the Bookie.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Chris from Starrett, Alabama says, may not be able to use active duty. Okay, we're talking about the troops on the border. May not be able to use active duty, but there are a good bit of us retired guys that would lace up our dusty boots for Trump and Hegseth and get the job done. Chris, I suspect that's true, brother. I suspect that's true. Adam from Athens says, I am thankful that Alabama would be better off with you thank you, as a U.S. attorney. Thank you very much. Says, we all know that the prophecy will come true. JP and Emily taking the show.
There's been several people saying the prophecy will come back, which is kind of funny to me because that's a bit that Dale started like a year and a half ago, and people still remember it. I find that funny.
That is funny. He can coin a phrase, Dale can.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a hoot. And by the way, I gotta take an aside. I want y'all to, we give Dale grief, we go back and forth trade. Y'all, I want to make sure y'all know the reason why I have a Rightside radio show at all is because of Dale Jackson. It's true. I do. Dale and I were friends. He would call me occasionally to come on his show. I was a former state senator, and I also worked for the Alabama Policy Institute, as well as practicing law. So he would call me to do commentary, and I'd come on the show and do the bit, kind of like I have guests on my show now. And then one day, true story, as long as I'm chasing a rabbit here, then one day Dale calls me and he goes, hey man, I'm going on vacation. I need a guest host. Could you guest host for me on so-and-so day? I said, oh, guest host. I mean, like, what would I do? Like talk for an hour, 2 hours, 2 hours. I was like, oh my God. I got so lawyered up for that show, man. I had notes. I had stacks of stuff. I went in just like ready. I didn't even use a third of my notes. I had the best time. His producer at the time, Antonio, at one point I was going to do 1 hour and he goes, you want to do hour two? I said, sure. So I just stayed on and kept going. But I guest hosted for him 2 or 3 times. And in March of 21, I think it was, Dale calls me and I see the phone ringing. I look down, I pick it up. I'm thinking he's going to ask me to be on or guest host again. And I say, hey, man, he goes, hey. And I said, what's going on? He goes, yeah, Rush Limbaugh died. And I said, yeah, man, that's true. What, you all right? And he goes, yeah, but I got to fill 3 hours. And I went, okay. He goes, we want you to do a show. And I said, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. He goes, no, we think you could do it. We want you to do a show. That turned into a whole thing. Next thing I know, Charlene and I are praying about it. It's just like this U.S. attorney thing. It was something we didn't seek out. God opened this door. An invitation was offered. And we felt like after praying it through that we had to step into it. And 4.5 years later, a syndicated show with podcasting, with staff. I mean, it used to be me with a microphone at my law firm desk talking. I didn't even know if it was working. I called the station manager one day, John Lewis, great guy. Love John Lewis. I said, John, he goes, hey. I said, is this working? He goes, what do you mean? I said, is anybody listening? And he goes, have you not seen the Nielsen's? I said, you got Nielsen's? He goes, yeah. And he produced them for me. They're like top rated show in North Alabama. I'm like, what? And he goes, you're doing great. So it just got bigger, and we've had the best time.
Well, what's funny is back then you were, worried about doing 2 hours, and for 4.5 years you've done 3 hours every day.
Isn't that funny?
Like it's nothing.
It's I won't
like
say like nothing.
It's like well, I can say like nothing. It's like a well-oiled machine now. So yeah.
Well, it is because I got good people. I got good folks. I could not have done it without you, without others. But anyway, all that I'm starting to get nostalgic now, so I better quit. Ron from Huntsville says, congratulations, brother Phil. Thank you, Ron. Jim from Huntsville says, sorry, Phil, you both are wrong. The best classic band is Blue Oyster Cult. Don't fear the Reaper, man. No, I'm still good. I mean, actually, JP just named my favorite bands. I'm talking literally, like went down a list of my favorite bands. Now, you did leave off Bad Company. That's one of my favorite bands of all time too. Got that blues rock sound.
I don't listen to as much Bad Company, but
throw in a little Leonard Skinner.
Well, yeah, Leonard Skinner.
Especially you got to have one more from the road, do the live version of Freebird. I mean, play it pretty for Atlanta, man.
Oh yeah.
All right. Lisa from Huntsville says, when the Gambino crime family was named, that's all I needed to know about the NBA gambling schedule. Says a lot, doesn't it?
Yes, it
says
does.
a lot. We're taking a break. We're coming right back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
In Vietnam until he met you.
So what? Thank you, by the way. So what, practically speaking, is your ministry besides having that heart for them and and extending that grace to them whenever you see them? And I know you wrote a book, but I've seen also you speak at veterans groups all the time.
I do.
When you say this is your ministry, is there a practical application to your ministry? Is there a goal?
To reach as many Vietnam veterans and thank them for what they did. Try to do as much as possible. And in the meantime, also the testimony how God just in my life, throughout my life, I see God's hands now and the purpose that he has for every one of us. He has a purpose and plans for every one of us.
Yeah.
And I really believe that my purpose in life is to reach out to Vietnam veterans. And I speak to kids group and help them to realize what a great country this is. I mean,
that's huge.
I tell them, I said, look, guys, y'all already won the lottery.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're born in America, you already won the lottery. Everybody want what you have. Everybody want what you have. You are living in the greatest country on earth. And I hope that if just one kid at least listen to what I had to say and really appreciate this country. I mean, I just felt like, that's my duty.
Well, I wish more Americans would take that same attitude. I mean, and not that we don't, but I mean, I just think that you bring a perspective on it that is so real because you've seen the other side. Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans not to harm you, but to prosper you, plans to give you a future and a hope. And I think I'll just go ahead and say it. I think you pretty much embody that verse. That being said, let me ask you this. I'm gonna close with this. Well, no, I want to ask about your book first. Your book is called The Ground Kisser. And I know Lisa Worthy-Smith assisted you with the book.
Right. That's another God story there.
It looks like a God story, and it's also been labeled as, it's got an award on there, one of the top 50 best indie books of the year in 2019. But first of all, why the title, Ground Kisser? Where'd that come from?
Well, the Ground Kisser, actually, do you remember Barry Farber, the radio show host out of New York City? Mr.
I can place the name, but I can't quite. Okay.
I think he was Sean Hannity's mentor.
Okay.
And he did a radio show out of New York City that broadcast in Athens, Alabama. My husband.
And Sean Hannity started in Athens and Huntsville.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so my husband listened to Mr. Farber every single day. And one day Mr. Farber was talking about an immigrant that come to this country, and they're so thankful to be here that they get on the ground and kiss the ground. And John's like, he's talking about you. So I'm going to call in and tell him your story. So he actually got through to Mr. Farber, and he's told Mr. Farber my story. And Mr. Farber said, well, your wife is a ground kisser. And so I knew that if I was to have my story written in a book, that's what it would be called.
How about that?
Yeah, and in 2020, during the COVID, I got to meet Mr. Farber.
Oh, is that right?
In person.
Good.
Yeah.
That's
In
good.
New York. We flew to New York and met him in person. And he passed away, I think, 2 years ago. Yeah.
Well, so the book, by the way, my wife loves it. I just got my copy, so I'm about to read it. Now I've got to read it. But I saw in one of your speeches that a lot of the proceeds go to veterans. Am I right?
All of it.
All of your proceeds.
Yeah.
So all the proceeds go to veterans.
Veterans and a few orphanages in Vietnam. And those orphanages are disabled kids.
Okay.
And a lot of those disabled kids came from Agent Orange, the effective Agent Orange.
And that brings up a point, and I meant to ask this earlier, and I'm going to ask it now, because Agent Orange is what finally got my father. But
Yeah.
Agent Orange also impacted you, am I right in saying that? You
Yes.
were in and around the areas where it was.
Yes. So in 6 years ago, I found out I had a brain tumor.
Ah, really?
Yeah. And my sister also, so after it was removed, it was benign,
Okay.
but it was too big down here that it had to be removed. And then all my siblings went and got tested, and one of my sisters got it also,
No
a brain
kidding.
tumor. And after talking,
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Pulling pins on truth grenades, y'all. And I tell you what, one of the truth grenades just got dropped into our text line. So we were talking about classic rock and all that a while ago. And I got to tell you, I'm a huge classic rock guy. I never got into disco except when I went to the high school dances. Other than that, disco left me cold. I didn't want to sing We Are Family and whatever else. No, I wanted some classic rock. So one of the ones that just got dropped into the text line, I should have said it earlier, Sean from Elkmont, Rush. How could I have forgotten Rush? Geddy Lee's vocals. Listen, you get Pert on the drums. Good Lord. Play a little Tom Sawyer on your playlist in the gym. You're good all day.
Oh yeah.
You can double your poundage on the bench press.
There's several songs where I gotta go to them if I'm about to do a PR or something. So I gotta listen to this.
Absolutely. Sean from Elkmont, we do agree. Rush should definitely be on the list. Brian from Decatur just texted in and said, I'm still waiting on some Molly Hatchet. Yes, I'm so sorry. And listen, I'm just telling you, there are going to be any number of groups that I'm going to be sorry I forgot. But Molly Hatchet, besides just the usual thing you hear about Molly Hatchet, then there's things like Whiskey Man with Molly Hatchet, and listen, that's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. But we were talking off the air. You had a story about a Flames album cover, a Pink Floyd album.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a picture up here on the live screen.
We're just chasing a rabbit right now, man.
Hey, man, that's what we do.
Oh yeah,
the "Wish You Were Here" album cover from Pink Floyd, in my opinion, is if not the greatest album cover of all time. If you're not seeing the live stream, it's a picture of one guy shaking another guy's hand. One of them is on fire, literally, and there are a bunch of warehouses and stuff. But this was pre-CGI, so it's really funny because this guy was actually on fire.
His hair's on fire.
Yeah, and so there's blooper pictures. I pulled one here from the internet of a bunch of people standing by with fire extinguishers and try to put it out real quick. There's others of him, running away. But that is dedication of the perfect album cover. And the reason behind the cover is the album was dedicated to one of the band members who had to leave because he went mentally crazy, went schizophrenic.
Yeah.
So the whole album called "Wish You Were Here" was dedicated to him. So it was like saying goodbye to a friend who is struggling and literally on fire, But like, can you imagine being that guy? He's like, okay, what we want you to do is stand here, shake this guy's hand,
How
and we're going to light you on fire.
about the guy who's doing the handshaking? I'm going to reach out and touch the guy who's on fire.
Yeah, and
I can't do anything about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's awesome. But hey, it made for a great picture.
Okay, so then, all right. As long as we're entertaining the audience with our knowledge of album covers, go find Leonard Skinner Street Survivors and put Flames. All right, Leonard Skinner Street Survivor Flames cover, and see what you get. Because the story on this is, if you can pull it up on the screen, I'd love to see it. So Leonard Skinner, you may know the story about the band's plane went down and they lost several band members that day. And the last album they had, there it is. Okay, it's on the screen right now if you're watching the live stream. The last album they had was Leonard Skinner's Street Survivors. It's a picture of the band members on a streetscape somewhere, like an old town in the middle of the street, and the buildings are on fire, except that if you look at the cover, a number of the band members are being touched by flames. This album was actually released right before their plane went down. Each of the members on that album cover that were being touched by flames are the ones who died in the plane crash.
Oh, man.
So soon thereafter, MCA, their record company, did a recall and pulled all of the Street Survivors albums off the shelf and republished it just with the band, with nothing else. It was like a black background and the band standing there. And if you can find that, you can put it up too. But yeah, it was a really weird kind of deal that became like this kind of like this urban legend kind of thing. There it is. That's the way the band. That was from the back of the album. They took that and put it on the front on the reissue. So now the collector's edition is, if you can find a copy of Leonard Skinner Street Survivors Flames edition, it's worth some money.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. All right. By the way, have we entertained you?
Yeah, exactly. we could go on.
We could. Joe from Huntsville wants to talk about some golden earring. Joe, listen to it. Golden earring. All right. Little Radar Love, I believe, was golden earring. David from Taft, Tennessee says, don't forget the band Yes. Yes. Let's remember Yes.
Yes.
I liked it when Yes had their comeback. And then I also like when some of the surviving members of Yes formed a band called Asia in the 80s.
Oh, I know Asia.
I was big on Asia when I was in the 80s. Tom from Decatur says the Eagles, best that there ever was. Get over it. Yeah,
the Eagles are hard to argue with that.
It's hard to argue with the Eagles for a variety of their longevity and their ability to have hits in multiple genres. Now, they didn't have a hit in disco, but that's okay.
they probably could have. They probably could have if they wanted to.
And what was the name of the band? It was a Native American band, and they had a song called Train Train. What was that? Oh gosh, I'm trying to think of the name. Blackfoot. Thank you very much. They were all Native American Blackfoot tribe members, and they formed a rock band called Blackfoot, and they had a cool song called Train Train. Joe from Athens says Alabama's had its own Brother Kane. Yes, they did. They had some sound played up at Muscle Shoals. And then David from Taft, Tennessee says Anderson Buford was what? Are you texting us or somebody else, dude?
Anderson Buford, Wakeman, and Howe.
I don't know what this is. Oh, is that? Oh, wait a minute. Is that the members of the band for? Hang on a second. Now I'm trying to think. Is that Emerson? No. I gotta know. What he's talking about.
I think he means Anderson Bruford, Wakeman and Howe. It's a band.
That's a weird name for a band.
It is.
All right, I'm going to come back and I'm actually going to get my dipper finished with home fries. You guys stay tuned. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back.
Lots and lots of veterans, because of my book, a lot of them have brain tumor. And I asked the doctor, I said, could this be an Agent Orange, the effect of Agent Orange? And he said, he said he wasn't sure. But there's Agent Orange. Oh my goodness.
You know, what's interesting is the VA will do what they call supposition. Or they will look at something and they'll say that in the event that you were there and you have these symptoms, they will automatically assume that it's because you were there. But they only do that with veterans. Mm-hmm. And you're not a veteran per se. You're definitely a veteran of the war, but you're not a veteran in uniform.
Right.
And so if this was a veteran who said, I was there, Agent Orange was there, I have a tumor, the VA would say, we're going to attribute that to Agent Orange.
Yeah.
You, on the other hand, don't have that luxury, but you were there at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of it flowed through the Mekong, I'm sure.
Oh gosh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Didn't Agent Orange just recognize about the government as the fact?
Oh, it
Just
is.
it hadn't been, but it was a long time the
Yeah,
government fought.
They put it off for quite a while.
Yeah.
And it took veterans having to fight for it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I think even today, there's still part of Vietnam where it's still in the soil and the water that pregnant women would have children with no limbs and some disability.
I like to say that the government gets great ideas that are great ideas at the time, and they find out later they're not great ideas.
Yeah.
And that's not an indictment of government overall. I'm just saying that in my generation, one of the issues that I faced in Afghanistan was a malaria medicine that the government quickly took off the shelf when they saw all the side effects. But we had to take it for a year when I was there, and I had a lot of side effects. And then I think we're going to see generations from now, the COVID vaccine is going to wind up having been a great idea that has side effects that people didn't see coming until later.
We've seen it now.
But you got your book. It benefits veterans, and it's an amazing book. If people want to get a copy, where can they find it?
They can get it through Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is where I got mine.
Yeah.
And you're going to sign it before you leak it out.
Absolutely.
I got one more question for you before we finish up.
Sure.
Let's say many years from now, your grandkids have a chance to watch this video. What would you want their takeaway to be?
Well, that war is evil. If we can avoid war, that would be good. That they have opportunities here in America that their cousin in Vietnam don't have, and that they should take advantage of every single opportunities that's given here in America, and also try to preserve liberty and freedom that they're so enjoy, and that they understand the hardship that their grandparents and parents had to go through for them, and really be grateful. Be humble and grateful for opportunity to live in the greatest country on earth. Actually, it's the greatest country in the history of the world. But mostly, I want my grandkids to know Jesus Christ. Ultimately, He is my Savior.
Well, Tom Boyer, thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Hey, hope you guys enjoyed that one. Listen, check out our YouTube channel. Find us at Rightside Media. We're also on all of our social media platforms, and you can also find us at rightsidemedia.org. All of our content, just click subscribe, follow, or like, and we'll see you next time on Just Right. Hey, folks, you're going to enjoy this one. I just had a conversation with Brian Dawson from 1819 News, president and CEO of an up-and-coming company that is making a huge splash in the state of Alabama. But listen, you're going to be amazed by his personal story. Brian Dawson, you talk about rags to riches. You talk about somebody who's been redeemed. You're talking about a guy who is looking at life in prison. You are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right, just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show goes like from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. I'm talking Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn War Eagle, straight across the line from there to what we call now, once again, Fort Benning. Big old patches of North Georgia, Mississippi thrown in just for good measure. Yep, and that's just the radio. That's just the radio footprint, y'all. Then there's all y'all in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web. Logging in every day to the live stream. Audio, video, peeking inside the studio. Live streaming right now on places like X, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then there's all you guys that podcast after the fact and catch the show later, but you catch it, and that's what's important. The fact that y'all do all those ways you catch the show, every single one of you, whether it's before, during, or after. Listen, thank you so much. We appreciate it. I'm not sure how you catch the show before. Just take my word for it.
Somehow, some way, somebody's got their ways. Time traveler.
That just happened. Hey, I got to go real quickly. I should have known this was going to happen. So now the text lines are lighting up about classic rock. Shane Daddy from Gadsden. Shane Daddy, I'm so glad to hear from you. Shane Daddy, otherwise known as Blues Man. Shane Daddy from Gadsden, a fine drummer in his own right. He says Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe were from Yes. He said, also, I'm glad you got to Rush. Thank you. You know what? When I saw the names, for some reason I wanted to say Emerson, Lake, and Palmer. And I thought, wait a minute, they would be called Emerson, Lake, and Palmer. Who am I talking about here? And so, yes, they were the members of Yes. Thank you very much. And I happen to know Shane Daddy's a huge fan of Rush. We've talked about it many times. Jeff from Indiana also reminds me REO Speedwagon. How did I forget them? Because that is the lovely Charlene's favorite classic rock band, REO Speedwagon.
There's just too many good bands to cover. One, everybody's going to remind us of the ones we forgot.
In her day, the lovely Charlene went to an REO Speedwagon concert and swears that the lead singer Kevin Cronin was singing "I'm Going to Keep on Loving You" to her.
I'm sure he was,
because she was the hot chick in the front row, so he was singing to her.
Oh yeah.
I did talk about your aunt that way. Excuse me. Penny from Athens mentions Van Halen. How did I forget that? And then Van Halen, I saw them in '81 in the original lineup. And then said I couldn't go for days. I couldn't hear for days. You know what? That's true. It was billed as the loudest concert in the world. And
really?
I believe it was. Yes, it was like.
What was that? The Von Braun?
I saw him in Birmingham at the BJCC, but it was. I mean, the speakers were stacked up so high on the stage, it actually hurt. And I was up in a upper level, but it actually hurt.
Wow. Yeah, I imagine if they had the, I don't know if you've ever been to the Orion Amphitheater, but the sound in there is amazing. We actually went to see the Journey and God, who is it? Was it Styx? That's who it was.
Oh yeah,
Journey and Styx on Journey's farewell tour. Even though it's none of the original members, but I saw that in the Orion, and it was awesome.
They still had Neil Sharn. He was the last one who was the lineup guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw a double bill of original band members minus one of both Kansas and Heart.
That's a good combo right there
at the Von Braun.
Wow, that's pretty epic.
I'm just like reminiscing of our music now. Okay, I gotta talk about some home for. All right, so every once in a while, I see there's more text coming in. Yeah, every once in a while, I get these stories that are coming across my news feed. I'm like, okay, that's important. That's happening in our backyard. Oh, look at this one over here. And then what I realize is I really got to do what I call cooking up a batch of home fries. There it is. You can smell them in the pan, baby. All right. A story broke today that I don't have it printed out because it happened later in the morning after I'd already prepped the show. JP, would you care to do the honors on the latest addition to the race for lieutenant governor?
Well, we talked about it before potentially, but my childhood quarterback is now running for lieutenant governor, AJ McCarron. He announced today with a video and a press release. So, and according to the likes of Jeff Poor, that the polling that they have seen of a hypothetical that he was polling off the charts for lieutenant governor. So it's going to be very interesting to see. Will Ainsworth, the current lieutenant governor, even retweeted it and said, well, this race just got a lot more interesting. Because I think Wes Allen was, I wouldn't say the front runner, but he was.
Oh, he's a front runner.
He was the front runner. Now he's got some solid competition of a political outsider. So with statewide ID already.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure I get this candidacy. Lieutenant governor. So first of all, I think the world of Wes Allen.
I do too.
And I think Wes Allen will make a great lieutenant governor. And I'm just going out there and saying it on the air right now. But I think Wes Allen is a great candidate for lieutenant governor. And I say that because Wes has served as a probate judge, as a member of the state house, so he understands the legislative process. And he's served us now as an amazing secretary of state for the last ever so many years. And he's now running as the lead candidate with understanding of the job for lieutenant governor. AJ McCarron's been a quarterback.
Yeah.
So I guess he can be lieutenant governor, but I don't know that he's ever even seen the inside of the state house.
Nah, I don't know either. And his whole pitch is obviously what you would expect. run of the mill politicians in Montgomery have been doing, the way they've been doing things has been wrong for too long. We need a political outsider to come in. He also said, which I thought this was pretty good, of Coach Tuberville is going to come in, be governor next year. He needs a quarterback to pass his action and get things done. So
Ooh.
I don't know. He's definitely playing the I'm a political outsider. The politicians and the same old has been doing nothing for us. We need somebody else to come in and do things the right way. So, and he also claimed that when he was on the Bengals in 2016 that he endorsed Trump. So that he's trying to say he's been a conservative for a long time, his whole life.
Okay, what about the residency issue? Because there was, I guess he's got it figured out.
Yeah.
The man's got he's declared his candidacy. I assume that means he's already filed the paperwork. Qualifying doesn't happen until January. So for those who don't know, you can declare your candidacy, but you have to actually be certified by the party. And the party certification doesn't happen until I think January. So people can still get in the race up until then. But all that to say, there was some question about his residency issues, whether he actually had a home of record in the state that was qualifying him to run for the office. I assume he's figured that out.
I don't think his primary residency has ever not been Mobile, even though he was the Bengals backup quarterback for a long time. He was the St. Louis Battlehawks starting quarterback in the UFL just recently, like I think last year, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think his primary, him and his wife have had a real estate company in Mobile for quite a while, apparently. So I don't think he's ever not been a primary resident of Alabama.
You watch there's going to be an immediate expose, if you will. Someone's going to come out with a story saying AJ McCarron doesn't live here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They're going to paint him as the carpetbagger who flew in from the north to run for office.
Yep.
But like I said, I'm looking at Wes Allen, who's been in this race for a while now. Suddenly having a guy with a lot of name ID, but Wes Allen is a great candidate who I think gets the job. So
we'll see.
I got some other stories here. Let me do a home fries. Okay. Montgomery, just when you think things are getting better. Stephen Reed is the mayor of Montgomery. Liberal Mayor Stephen Reed is a true piece of work. I mean, the guy is a blue dot in a red state, right? But a story on 1819 News came out yesterday. Montgomery Mayor Stephen Reed is going to push for local gun reform legislation. Does he not know where he lives? This is Alabama. I mean, we are about as gun-friendly a state. We're a open carry state. We have been for years. We're a permitless carry state. You can carry concealed without having to have a concealed carry permit. I mean, this is it's a hunting state. Anyway,
but as you know, Phil, that's what caused this mass shooting in Montgomery recently.
Well, that's true.
Is Alabama's lax gun laws.
The gun jumped up and did it all by itself. So Mayor Stephen Reed says he's been previously critical of Alabama's constitutional carry laws. He says, quote, if common sense gun reform doesn't make sense for the state of Alabama, then let's make it make sense for Montgomery. I don't think there's this thing called preemption. I don't think he understands that in state law issues, state preempts municipal. Good luck getting that done. And then there's a federal preemption. Federal preempts state. So if you got an issue with the state's gun laws, Mayor, I suggest you hire a general counsel who knows what they're doing, who will advise you. You will not be able to do what he says is working with the Speaker's office and the Senate pro tem and the Lieutenant Governor to make this make sense. We cannot wait. What a nutty thing.
It's just ridiculous.
That's a Democrat.
That's what I thought when I saw that. I was like, okay, how are you going to have any sway?
He's not.
Mr. Mayor.
He is not. Speaking of which, though, in Montgomery, other story from 1819 News. So that mass shooting, by the way, I was just down there Tuesday. I drove through that same intersection, which I've been to a million times. That intersection is right down from the Capitol, where this mass shooting took place just a few weeks ago, which, in my opinion, did not get near the national news coverage it should have.
Nope.
14 people were injured. 2 were killed in a mass shooting right on the street corner just down from the Capitol building. Unbelievable. Montgomery County Deputy District Attorney Marianna Lynn. I don't know. That's a hard name. Let's just call her Marianna Coleman asked District Judge Michael Goodwin on Monday to call a hearing to increase the bond of one of the 4 suspects who was arrested for the alleged involvement in the deadly downtown shooting. Was released on a mere $60,000 bond.
God.
We're talking about a mass shooting, 16 people shot, 2 of them were killed. This happened in a crowd during a celebration, and he got out on $60,000 bond. That's like a slap on the wrist. That's a nothing burger. Anyway, the deputy DA is now asking for the bond to be increased. Says the juvenile victim received a life-threatening injury, is still currently listed as being in critical condition. The defendant was armed with a firearm, began shooting while in a crowded downtown area, putting many lives at risk. When the defendant was apprehended, he was in possession of a loaded firearm that also had a Glock switch with an extended magazine. Well, no wonder they were spraying bullets everywhere. Good gosh. Anyway, says the current bond amount is woefully inadequate. You think? To protect the public from this dangerous and violent criminal. Listen, there's going to be some changes coming to the law. You watch. You got by the way, that happened right next door to the Renaissance Hotel, just across from a thing called the Alley, which has restaurants that we eat in all the time as legislators, and right next door to a historic high-rise building that has been converted to a Hampton Inn, but it's a really nice Hampton Inn in an old historic building. It happened right there on the street in front of all that. Those are all places. Every reception I've been to, it seems like half of them are at that Renaissance Hotel. Every time I've stayed at that Hampton Inn, but I knew legislators who that was their place. They stayed right there. It's right down from the Capitol. And so I guarantee you, this got the attention of a whole lot of legislators who are about to take action. And they're going to make sure that people like that don't get out on bond. One other piece of news before I go to the break. You remember the thing about about the DOJ with Jack Smith monitoring the phones of senators to include our own Senator Tommy Tuberville?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, apparently it was also Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee. And now they're saying that the common thread was apparently Trump support, which I think we can kind of figure. But what she's saying is she was one of nearly a dozen Senate Republicans, which I saw that they're now adding Ted Cruz to that list too. So it was basically, if you were a Republican senator who was known to be a Trump supporter, they were monitoring your phone to see if there was any January 6th info they could glean from you. Sitting senators.
Yeah.
Marsha Blackburn calling it out, saying we have got to, this is about making certain we have one tier of justice, that we stop the 2 tiers of justice. If they can do this to 8 sitting U.S. senators, what else could they possibly do? I mean, think about how they must be doing this to conservatives around the country. Great point. Marsha Blackburn, soon to be the governor of Tennessee, by the way. All right, that's it. We're taking a break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. It's an amazing family, an amazing life, an amazing testimony of how the Lord has redeemed him, and who is, oh, by the way, making a huge difference in our state. Stay tuned. Just Right podcast coming up next. Yeah, let's do a show.
1, 2, 3, hey!
Brian Dawson, how you doing?
Doing good.
Good. I got notes, dude.
All right.
I'm gonna start with a sort of introduction. All right.
Hit me.
You was born and raised outside the state of Alabama. Spent a lot of your time in Colorado Springs. Am I right?
Yep. And Derby, Kansas. Those are the 2 places.
Does that make you a carpetbagger if you came from out west?
No, west is not north.
Okay.
So yeah, carpetbaggers only come from the north.
All right. So you're allowed.
Yeah.
You were a white suburban kid.
Correct.
But your parents divorced when you're young. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
I can relate to that. But then there's this period of your life. We'll talk about it in detail here in a minute. You've been very candid in some of the other interviews and discussions I've even had with you. Crime, drugs, drinking.
Sure.
And then there became time when you were even involved with drug cartels and other things, and spent time in prison.
Yep.
At one point, I know you were facing like just short of 400 years potentially in prison. But then you found Jesus. You found a beautiful woman. You found purpose. You found parenthood like 7 times.
Correct.
And
it's the number of completion, Phil.
Oh, well, there you
They
go.
say perfection and completion.
Speaking of which, we're going to get to the initials of all your kids' names too, which is very cool. And then now it's radio, media, 1819 News, president and CEO. So let's start. All right, let's just talk about it.
Yeah.
Early childhood, dude. How did you get to where you went?
Yeah. So interesting thing. I always like to, the more I learn about people and get to know people and everything, I realize who they are, where they're from, who their parents are matters a lot. And I also think, well, I'll just kind of go into that. So my dad is from West Monroe, Louisiana. He is a swamp redneck. He grew up with Phil Robertson.
Duck Dynasty. Phil
Duck
Robinson.
Dynasty. Okay.
Yeah.
Phil was about 7 years my dad's senior, and so Phil was the camp counselor at Camp Chioka in Louisiana. And so, my dad was like 10 and Phil was like 17 at the summer camp or whatever. But my grandma, Memu, as we call her, Betty Dawson, taught Sunday school with Miss Kay for 30 years at Whites Ferry Road Church of Christ in West Monroe, Louisiana. So I say all that because it's neat on one hand that my family is close with their family or whatever, but also to give you, like, everybody knows the Robertsons and the swamp redneck thing, right? Like, they're swamp rednecks with money. But prior to them having money, there was a saying in West Monroe that the only people that were more poor than the Dawsons was the Robertsons. Okay, and the Dawsons was po, like they were super poor. Okay, I would joke and say
they changed that over time.
Yeah, so they did. My dad not so much. That's okay though. Went the middle class route, but my dad, swamp redneck from Louisiana. Grew up. I always say back when poor people were skinny, had to hunt for food, garden, like so. That's that side of my family. And then on the other side, there's my mom. My mom, and we'll kind of get into a little bit more of her background later in the story as it's pertinent. But she was the daughter of a state senator in Colorado, Colorado Springs specifically. And so my grandfather was a state senator. He ran for governor. He ended up running for Congress against Joel Heffley in Colorado. That was the only politics I was around for where all that happened before I was born, except for the run for Congress. And he has a country club background, right? And so you mix this swamp redneck with this country club, and this is where you get this amazing pedigree that sits before you.
Had this sort of Romeo and Juliet feel to it.
Yeah, I guess so. But that I really do think that plays a lot into who I am and how I go about things, but for better or for worse. But yeah, so they couldn't have been more different, and they got divorced when I was 2, right? Like who didn't see the writing on the wall with that one? So they got divorced when I was 2. Courts put me with my mom. That's kind of the knee-jerk reaction of the court system. At least it was back then. I don't think it's changed that much now. The knee-jerk reaction is give kids to mom. And had they have done any type of due diligence whatsoever and looked into the situation, they would have seen that that was not the best place for me. And so when I was 2 years old, boom, I'm now living with my mom, seeing my dad every other weekend. And
where were y'all living then?
This was Colorado Springs. Okay. Yep. And so, my mom, God bless her, I love her. She did the best she could with what she had, right? And so I've worked through a lot of unforgiveness with my mom and with my dad, but just forgiving them and me thinking, oh, I've forgiven them, but it's like, no, really. And then once you've forgiven them, you can actually see the appreciation that they did everything they possibly could. Now that I have kids, I see. But my mom had a very rough childhood, though she was from country club, lineage. She was sexually abused as a child. She, had all kinds of abuse and just horrible. And, so she had a lot of trauma in her life that she never dealt with. And so I'm living with her, and the solution to every problem that she has is another man. And so I ended up with like 5 or 6 stepdads. I lost count. Okay. Now I will say, I know there's no way you haven't seen the movie or read.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. So I got to say, I'm not going to read the text out because it's beautiful, wonderful personal text. But an old friend named Sherry just texted the show. She's just a wonderful friend to Charlene and I, especially during our college years. Sherry, we love you. I'm so glad to hear from you. I've got your number now, and I will tell the lovely Charlene that you said hello and hope to see you sometime soon. That's amazing. What a great blast from the past. John's got the grades in. JP gets a B- for too much AJ McCarron talk.
It's my quarterback.
He says, even though I love those home fry sound effects. Caroline Dobson gets an A+ for her absolutely amazing performance and spot on comments. However, today's winner has got to be none other than the absolutely brilliant Phil Williams with an A+ for his absolutely perfect performance and spot on comments about how Wes Allen will make a great lieutenant governor. Congratulations, John from Huntsville. John, thank you, brother. Appreciate you very much. Wow, that's cool. All right, I'm going to the phones before I run out of time because you know who's on there. Jeff Rowe from Indiana. Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'll let you know here in about 20, 30 minutes, I guess, when I get through these suburbs.
Oh, okay. Is you in the midst of the Nashville suburbs?
I'm in the northern Nashville suburbs. Yeah.
Well, at least you're on the north side. That's good.
Yeah.
Well,
oh, man. Your buddy Dale Jackson really want to keep you in this job. Did you hear?
I heard he said nice things.
Yeah, I mean, something about he went to the gym with you, and you had a full panel of a Hitler on your back tattoo.
Oh God. I see what's happening here now. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I have no tats, especially not any that relate to the Nazi party. Not at all.
Well, if you was a Democrat, you'd be like the guy in Maine there. You scoot on through there and everything because that's okay as long as you're a Democrat.
As long as you're a Democrat, that's the way that works. Absolutely. It still boggles the mind. I mean, they would be excoriating somebody in the Republican Party, and they're just riding it like it's a nothing burger.
Well, of course, it's no problem as long as you got the right. I got a D in front of your name, 7R. That's fine.
Well, yeah, that's the way that
man.
works. Just so I understand the rules. That's the way that works.
That's right.
Hey, what do you think about the news we had today, man? I talked a lot about the military against the cartels. What do you think about that? Even on the southern border, maybe like offensive not defensive, but offensive operations.
Well, yeah, I mean that's how you take care of things. I mean, because they're coming over and basically was here not too long ago was shooting at ICE agents and everything else, I guess, on the border and stuff. With impunity. Not too long ago. So I mean, yeah, the cartels. Until Mexico is run by the cartels. Let's just admit it, what it is. They got the money, they've got the political power and everything. That's why they're not being touched. Yeah, somebody needs to reach out and touch them. And until that problem is solved, it's just going to keep going the way it is. You have to bankrupt them, basically.
And I agree. I think you have to choke off their supply, choke off their logistics, and definitely choke off their money.
Yeah. And unless they're going to start charging for all the people coming back through the countries or something, they charge them going this way, maybe they'll charge them going back.
Maybe. I look at this whole thing though, and I think, what's amazing to me is it took this long for someone to figure out that this process might actually be the way it takes to stop things. It's amazing to me that it took this long for someone to finally say they are narco terrorists, not just narco traffickers.
Just to put it in comparison, you just have to say which did more damage to this country, the Al Qaeda or the narco terrorists.
It's true. I mean, I hate to minimize anything that Al Qaeda did because 9/11 is still a huge event in the psyche of America and the toll it took. But we lose more than that per week in drug overdoses that are come in because of cartels. But yeah,
exactly. It's just like automobile deaths compared to gun deaths and everything. If we're gonna stop the massacres, we quit driving instead of worrying about people with guns.
It's true. Hey, brother, music's about to play. You be safe on the road. We will see you tomorrow. All right.
All right, bud. You have a good one.
All right, man. You too. All right, that's it, you guys. I am serious when I say it. I mean it every time. There are way more of us than there are them. Oh, by the way, God is still on his throne. You guys stay in the fight. We'll see you tomorrow.